said, it's the 30th of April. I cut off Rob's cue noise because we don't need to do one because we're sitting in the same room.
Because news!
Okay, that's not at all true, in fact, for this podcast. Dan's not here, which means it's me, it's Robert Kemp doing the intro word after the intro, and it's Richard Kemp, our regular-ish guest. I mean, when we have guests, he's usually the guest.
He's the most regular. He's the most guest.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello. Otherwise known as DJ Kipling.
Yep.
Twitch superstar.
So, God, sometimes.
By one viewer.
Master of the purple and orange.
Yeah, I mentioned that. He's got a fancy McLaren hat, which happens to be orange, conveniently.
That is sweet, actually. Where did you get that? Like
eBay.
Are you even into F1 this year or at all?
I've been more into it this year than I have been previous years.
All right.
Just because this year is looking slightly interesting.
Yeah,
because of all the changes and car reg changes and all that stuff. So
I mean, the new cars do look rad.
They look cool, but they don't seem to be doing all that well, do they?
No, they're just half of them breaking down and half of them aren't working as well as they should be.
That's the best thing about new cars and new regs. It's like they have so little time to build them that of course they're going to be flaky. Of course.
So now we need to introduce even more rules into F1 where it's just like it's like a roguelike for F1 where the rules just change every year, like massively, so everyone has to completely rebuild everything every time.
I'd be into that. Like change something fundamental just one thing every year.
This year it's all 6-wheel cars.
Oh yes.
That'd be cool.
I'd be so into that. Imagine the pit stops.
Yeah, you'd have to train up a whole 50% extra people.
Yeah. Or maybe it'd be weird, like you'd end up in a weird situation where all of the tyres don't wear.
Degrade.
Like the middle ones probably don't wear that, so they stay on for most of the race.
Or you specifically make them like that. Like maybe the middle wheels are like extra large so they last longer. Or something.
Or maybe you know the skid plates they put on them, maybe they have to have a plate that's touching the floor at all times.
I mean, that's kind of what the skid plates always are already.
Almost.
On a lot of tracks, especially.
Yeah.
Where it's slightly bumpier.
They do seem to have got worse, haven't they? Like, or better, whichever way you look at it.
Yeah.
Like, there's way more sparks than there was, like, maybe 5 years ago, something like that.
I mean, I assume that the sparks thing is, somewhat controllable by what it's made of, right?
Yeah. I think that they're almost intentionally made of something to make sparks. I don't know.
Because I think originally they were just made of wood, right? They just stuck a plank on the bottom, basically.
Right, yeah.
Because the whole point of them is to wear down in order to detect if people are skimping on fuel weight or whatever.
Oh.
They still do have big wood planks, don't they, on the bottom? Or wood base.
They won't be wood now.
Yeah, I assume it's something slightly more technically advanced than literally a wood plank. But
It'll be too flammable.
well,
I'm
that too.
pretty sure when they showed the bottom, it was just like a wood bit.
I mean,
Probably treated wood.
well, yeah, maybe.
Or maybe it's like just a texture on a bit of carbon fiber or something. Like the way those are made. They don't have to be quite. Like they could be a nice weave.
You'd think they wouldn't even need to. I mean, if that, from what I understand of that being the original intention of those, like they actually were intended to wear down at a specific rate, and that was a part of like measuring things about the race. You wouldn't think they'd need that any longer.
No.
For weight purposes.
I think
you could probably just weigh things.
But you want to be low to the ground because of the aerodynamic effect
yes,
of being
but
low,
that's
and something I guess they just put the plate on to be like, well, actually, we need
I
some
think
extra protection. Something's going to rub.
Well,
if
I think
we're that low.
it was like the weight. It was trying to measure the weight because people were getting too low. Like they were using extra weight to push it down, so it would reduce the ground effect or whatever, or increase it.
Yeah.
So they were like, "No, you can't do that. We'll put a big old plank on the bottom to make sure you're not, or to detect if you are."
Huh.
But now they've all got porpoising issues instead.
Yeah.
So they keep bouncing.
Oh, have they? They've got the waft.
Yeah. Bad aerodynamics. Potentially.
That's why Mercedes apparently suck, because they've got massive porpoising issues, so their car's just going boingy, boingy, boingy.
But yeah, you'd think. I don't know. I'm not really up on like how much they're allowed to mess with the general regs, but presumably like they can sort that much out. Like they have
Yeah,
enough
well, yeah, I
flexibility.
mean, that
on-
seems like a safety issue, so you'd hope that they'd be allowed to fix that.
Yeah, because if it's bouncing all over the place, surely the grip is way down.
Yeah, because that happened in the race where we watched it last week. There was that one time where I think it was actually a Ferrari, not a McLaren, that was doing it in this case. But it was like when it was braking into a corner, it was wobbling like crazy, which is definitely not the place where you want low grip.
No, especially under that sort of force. I don't know. Yeah, F1 it could be interesting. We're like still a couple of weeks behind, aren't we, in watching it? Like we haven't watched Imola yet. Last one we watched was Australia. Not my favourite course in the world. Australia's quite dull. Then again, like the Italian races are normally fairly dull as well. They're high speed, but they're not really interesting corner-wise. And that's where you want everything to happen. You want the corners. It's no Belgium, man. Belgium's the best.
It's the only thing. Everyone only thinks of Belgium because of rain and crashes.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because the course is good. I mean, I guess
no.
it's not one big corner right at the start. That helps.
No, I like Belgium as a course. It's fun to race like on Forza games as well. Like it's just a fun track. You never really hear the drivers talking about Belgium all that much, though. Like a lot of the like they go like, "Oh, I love Monaco."
They only love Monaco because then they can go on their yachts or the casinos or whatever.
Or if you're like Leclerc or Hamilton, just go home.
Yeah.
I don't know. Apparently, like this year's F1 game is segue is supposed to be kind of interesting. It's like it's the first one they're introducing VR in a Codemasters game.
Well, I mean, I guess they've already made that tech from the rally.
Yeah, it's like it feels like they should have done this years ago,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess considering it is a yearly thing, then yes, years ago.
Yeah. But this, oh man, it's tempting. It's like this is the thing. Is I've been on the edge about like getting a VR headset for a while, and it's like,
But F1 is going to be the thing to push you over, surely.
yeah, it might be. It might be. Like just if it plugs in well, and I get the wheel out, and it's like, yeah, the full immersive experience. It might be
Yeah, but
pretty.
you're
cool.
not going to like driving F1 in like a simulation capacity, I don't think.
I don't know. That's the most
Semi-simulation, maybe.
most of the time I get the wheel out is for sim-ish games.
I mean, you might as well just
Like I'm
play
waiting for
Dirt
that.
Rally.
I'm waiting for that Forza 8, right? That proper Forza 8. So
Yeah,
I can
that'd be
put,
good.
So I can put that on PC. Because you can't buy Forza 7 anymore.
Yeah, it seems like they stopped selling that a bit early. But
Yeah.
they're like, we're going to stop selling this so that we can sell the new one. Oh, wait, the new one hasn't come out.
No, that
That's
was
licensing, isn't it? No
yeah.
doubt.
Yeah.
Car licensing, music licensing.
But if they already-
Any license you can imagine, it was probably expired.
I mean, I guess do they only... I was going to say they only license that for a year, but it's not a yearly franchise. I guess they do license it
2
for
years, I
several
guess.
years.
Yeah, it used to be every 2 years. This is the biggest gap I think the series has ever had since it launched, which is quite crazy to
You're
think
not going
about.
to get any VR in that.
No.
No, and I think
It's
that's
a Microsoft game.
yeah, I think that's a real shame because Microsoft haven't really lent into VR at all, and Forza seems like the obvious fit, especially with their beautiful car interiors. Like, just look around.
You can make the stupid Forza Vista mode actually real.
Yeah.
Like, not actually just like panning a camera around a car. You can actually look at it.
Yeah, you could do like a room scale car vista thing. Could work quite well. But no, MMS seems to have they've stayed so far away from VR,
Apart from HoloLens.
apart from HoloLens.
Which
Yeah,
didn't really happen, I guess. I mean, not in the context of games anyway.
no, the consumer versions of it aren't quite there yet. HoloLens is used
Yeah.
by in some professional capacity, but like the home version of it, the one they all the ones they demoed obviously at like in their big presentations, the whole home Minecraft
Yep.
or the aliens coming out of the walls, the things that everyone goes, "Oh, that's going to be cool." It's like no, that's not what that's not what it's used for.
Surely it wouldn't be too hard for them just to partner with like Oculus or
Yeah, but
Someone
they don't
just
want
let-
to do VR. They want to do AR, which
Yeah.
I guess no one else has really done to like a full consumer grade, really.
That's where they've staked their claim. And it's
yeah,
like,
but I mean, just for the console side, surely they could just partner with one of them and just say this is compatible with the Xbox now, and
you'd think.
just especially with the new PS PSVR coming out as well, you'd think they'd want to at least have something that they can compete it with.
I mean, maybe Microsoft just doesn't believe in VR at all. Maybe they're like, this is going to die down in like a year. We're not going to get caught in the 3D trap again or whatever.
Well, yeah, maybe this is them being cautious after Kinect.
Well, I do think VR is still a way off from being mainstream.
Sure.
Such.
I think it's surprising the number of people I know that aren't gamers that have a VR headset. Like a good portion of the people I work with, like, okay, yeah, strange space, yeah, software developers, that kind of person. A good number of them have got Oculus kit and play Beat Saber and things like that, but they're not what I would call traditional gamers. It's like if I was to talk about playing Rocket League or Tunic of late, I mentioned that to a few of them, and they were just like glassed over.
Yeah. See, I've always been on the fence of VR. Like, it looks cool, right? And it does seem like something that's fun, but the longevity of it isn't really there for me, I think, worth the price, because it's quite expensive still, right? You're still looking at
about
a couple of $100 or so for an Oculus Quest or whatever.
It's $300 for the base Oculus Quest 2.
Yeah,
which
that's a lot of money.
Which is the cheapest good quality set you can get. And it's a lot more if you want to go down the HTC route or the Valve route.
Yeah, exactly. So it's still a huge barrier to entry, really.
Yeah, they are pricey.
I mean, if not Facebook wants to get everyone in the metaverse, then they're going to have to make them cheaper.
Well, yeah. I hear we're probably not too far away from a Quest 3 announcement.
Do they need to, though? Because the Quest 2 is still quite good.
The Quest 2 is still one of the better ones, yeah. And at their price point, I don't know if they've got a huge amount of need, but hey, they'll probably want to do a pro version, right? That's why they want to do a Quest 3 for those.
Well, yeah, that will just be the pro version because it's just an upgrade.
And given from the specs that PSVR 2 has announced, they might get out-specced at that price point pretty soon.
I don't even know if that's really the same market, though.
It's not, though, because it's like the people that I know have owned the Quest use it standalone. They don't hook it up to a PC with the link cable or anything like that. They use it because everything can run on the Quest, which is in itself kind of crazy. I kind of want one, and I kind of want to just want to play Shooty Fruity on it.
So you've been saying for like 5 years.
I know, but that was so much fun. That's probably the best VR experience I've had. Was that game?
Well, it's that, and I'd love to play Beat Saber as well.
Yeah, I want to try Beat Saber.
I mean, Beat Saber seems like the Wii Fit of VR, basically. The one thing that everyone's going to do it.
The other thing I want to try is Harmonix's Audica, because hey, it's a rhythm game, but with guns. What could go wrong? It should be awesome. I'm sort of surprised that Audica because it was a Harmonix thing, didn't become as well known as things like Beat Saber and stuff. I guess Beat Saber was just super early, and lightsabers.
Probably easier as well to get into.
Maybe, yeah.
And the
better support.
Yeah, the classic like audio surf situation where you can just dump any old music in there in theory, but it's a little bit more complicated than Beat Saber.
Oh,
it's not just automatic.
Is it one of those where it is literally like, or a bit like Stepmania or something like that?
Yeah,
where
you
can
just
make their own
make
step charts or whatever they call them.
Huh. Yeah, okay, that'd probably do it. Like the crazy, was it off-market Uenden scene that was around for a while? That was mad. Get those styluses out.
Yep.
I'm sure that still exists quite.
Not that long ago on the podcast, I was talking about playing Stepmania again because I randomly came back round of it and was like, oh yeah, Stepmania, that's still jank.
In your quest to acquire DS games, Kippers, or
3DS.
3DS, okay. Yeah. Right, yeah, rats. I was about to say, did you end up with a copy of Uenden or Elite Beat Agents? Or...
I've got Elite Beat. Oh no, I haven't got Elite Beat. Have I? I don't know. I can't remember. I was
quite tempted to try and hunt down a copy of the original Uenden on DS because that soundtrack's great. It's a properly decent game.
Well, you could play it on my 3DS without buying it.
Well, yes, you could. Mechanisms exist. But, this is a podcast about
pricey now, aren't they?
What, DS games?
DS and old DS games, some of them are getting quite pricey nowadays.
Well, maybe. Especially the ones that were listed on DS where
Well,
I can't
yeah, I
access.
guess it's like now if you want some of those download only games, you're going to have to buy an entire DS in some cases, or a memory card, I guess.
Well, yeah, you'd buy.
Yeah, it's so weird that they've done it that way, though.
Yeah.
Presumably, you'd buy an R4 or whatever the current equivalent is, and just load the downloaded games onto it if you really wanted to, because there's no other way of getting them.
For DS stuff, anyway, yeah.
Well, and soon 3DS, because they're dropping that soon, aren't they?
Yeah, 3DS is dying, but you can't use R4 cards on... Well, you can, but you're better off just modding the whole thing.
Oh, is that the route?
That's what I've done, yeah.
You have to mod your whole 3DS to get there. That's a shame.
It's super easy, and it makes no difference to your 3DS, so...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Never modded a machine myself. I've got a modded... What is the one I've got? I've got a weird modded Sega Nomad, of all things.
I've modded all my handhelds, pretty much. I've got 2 modded 3DSs, I've got my Vita's modded.
Vita. There's a phrase you don't hear very much. This is a podcast about video games.
No, well, I mean, eventually.
We've actually been talking about video games quite early.
Kind of.
I honestly don't even know why I started collecting 3DS games, because I barely play the 3DS.
You've got, you've always had a bit of a collecty streak.
Yeah, I
you
love
know.
collecting things, but at the time I was just like, 3DS games are pretty cheap. Might as well pick a bunch of them up.
Yeah, but it's a massive library if you're going to go for if you're trying to collect them.
Yeah.
I suppose that means you'll never run out.
Depends how we're going into the real
to
track.
500, I think.
Oh, really?
European releases, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I suppose just Europe.
Slightly more than an N64.
Oh, yeah, way more than N64.
Well, N64 is only like 360 something.
Yeah, it's not.
So it's not way more.
It's not a huge
Some
roster.
more.
It's better than trying to track down PS2. You'd be in the thousands, I think.
Yeah,
for
it is
PS2.
thousands, yeah. We've got about half of them now, I think. But there's there's just some of them are just stupid expensive, so it's like I'm never going to get them all, but
Yeah, there's always something like that.
it's always Japanese RPGs.
Oh, is it?
Like stuff like I don't even know what they're called. They announced a new one recently. I think it's in like the universe that the Persona universe.
Oh, right.
Oh, one of the Shin
Devil
Megami
Survivors
Tenseis or something.
and- yeah, those ones, and Devil Survivor and things like that. They're the really expensive ones.
Huh.
Like, yeah. Well, they're not actually that expensive. They're just like retail price.
Oh, I see. Yeah, okay. That's not so bad.
But it's still like, I'm not paying 50 quid for a 3DS game.
I still want Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition to actually just be accessible at a price that's not £55.
What's that? Is that the 3DS one?
No, Definitive Edition is the Switch one. But it's the
With all
one.
the
It's the one.
DLC, is it?
Yeah, it's the one before Age of Calamity. But it's like a physical copy is almost impossible to find
I don't get
unless you want to pay full price for it.
See, that's one reason why I've never bought a Switch, because games just don't go down in price ever, and I don't really understand why.
I mean, they do if they're not like. I mean, Metroid Dread came down a bit after launch, didn't it? Because it launched at full price, like a full 50 quid or whatever Nintendo taxed game was, but it's down to like 30 something now physically.
Yeah, but that's crazy. Like, even like the Pokemon games that they make like 50 million copies of, they're still like 30 quid.
Yeah.
It's because the Pokemon company, they can get away with that.
But it's not even just like...
And it's the resale market as well.
Yeah, so I mean, like second-hand games don't really drop that much either. It's crazy.
I don't. It's like I mentioned this on the cast several weeks ago, but it's like I would potentially consider picking up a copy of 8 Deluxe if I could get one on the cheap, so I could get that course pass and see what the hell was going on with extra courses. Because it's been so long since I played America, and it's like 48 courses for like $20 or whatever they said it was. That's a bargain.
If they're good, a lot of them haven't been good. Though.
No.
Basically.
No, but I don't know, more content's more content.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay
It doesn't
with
really
it.
matter too much, does
No.
it?
But like as I said before, it's like I played Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U.
Yeah, so
like
did I.
to death.
I even
And it
bought
was-
the DLC on the Wii U
Yeah,
version.
because it was a bargain. Damn you, Nintendo.
Yeah, I do want to Switch, but then every time I think about it, I'm like, oh, the Pro's just around the corner,
Yeah.
supposedly.
Supposedly.
The Switch Pro or the Switch 2. Like
Yeah.
we can't be far away from that now, can we?
Maybe. I mean,
Has anyone tried Switch emulation on a Steam Deck?
I bet that probably doesn't run good.
No,
Or
I
at
bet
all.
not.
Because it's really good on normal PCs, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Probably GameCube emulation on devices like that has got pretty good. You can do that level. But yeah, maybe the Switch is a little much. It's modern. Apparently, like the things that like hold up Switch emulation are like modern shader compilation steps and things like that. Those are quite tricky to emulate or to emulate without causing significant pauses.
You can like
Pre-case.
You can
Yeah.
you can pre-cache, pre-compile, but which I think is what Valve did to fix Elden Ring.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
On the Steam Deck. They made their own pre-compilation step.
Yeah, because that game doesn't run well even
It does not.
on normal.
But when has Dark Souls ever ran well?
They are often terrible PC ports. Yes.
But the problem with Elden Ring is it's not even great on console performance-wise. So
Yeah, I've heard that. I mean, I mentioned that, like, and I'm surprised that like it didn't knock the.
yeah, it should have done definitely.
I'm a little bit surprised it didn't knock the reviews down more than it did, but like,
Well, I'm always.
but then
confused.
then I'd be a total hypocrite saying that because we play Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity, which has
Yeah.
the worst frame rate for like many like top tier games, and we love the hell out of that.
I
Thing.
don't think that reviewed very well because of the frame rate.
It reviewed
I
okay.
mean, it reviewed fine.
Yeah.
But I think the frame rate penalised it more than Elden Ring.
Yeah, I read loads of reviews of Elden Ring, and barely anyone even mentions it being an issue. I think in the ones I read, and but there was a lot of things about Elden Ring, not just the FPS. There was like bugs and all sorts, and no one seemed
there
to
always
put anything like about them in the reviews or
Yeah.
dot points for it. Or
I mean, I've never got into the whole FromSoft fervor, right? None of those
No.
games have ever clicked with me. But admittedly, I've not put the time in. But like, I have a mate of mine, Cambridge Dan, who has been a FromSoft fan like since like really early days. Like, so he makes us play all their weird. He made me play like quite a few of their weird PS1 era games.
like
Kingsfield,
yeah.
and I hate them.
They're terrible.
I could not
awful.
hate them more. I think they're appalling games, and it's like
They have not aged well. Anyway.
no. It's like, but he loves them. He loves the quirk of them and the strangeness of them. And there is a discipline to them, I suppose.
They are kind of Dark Soulsy in a way.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
suppose.
You can definitely see the DNA forming, I suppose, in them. But no, just big hard no. And I think maybe it's because I'm like exposed to those. It's just like, and I look at these and go, well, this is effectively just that prettied up.
Yeah, I mean, I've never really got into Dark Souls, but Elden Ring, I've enjoyed quite a lot actually.
Oh, are we like segueing into what you've been playing?
Early.
We can move on to that later if you want, but yeah, I've played some Elden Ring. It's good. It is a good game.
Okay.
No denying that. But you just have to be okay with enduring a lot of frustration, I suppose.
Yep, that is the FromSoft typical way.
Yeah, which I'm not sure I am these days.
No, see,
honestly.
I struggle with that a lot. Like, I get quite frustrated with games in general, even when they're not that hard. You know what I mean? Sometimes if you
Yeah. I don't like games that waste my time these days.
Yeah.
It's like, I find that most annoying.
so you do have to do a lot of repeating stuff because you do die all the time.
There's a bit of me that hates that about my modern self, and it's like because it's the thing that puts me off a lot of roguelikes. It's like I don't want to try that again because it was annoying and long.
I think it depends on the game, right? Because Rogue Legacy 2 that just came out, that kind of does it in a way that isn't like that, I don't think.
Well, it's because
Rogue Legacy 1 was proper good. And
Rogue
like,
Legacy
they can't
1,
really,
yeah.
they can't really go wrong with this one.
That's what I mean. Like, when you die in that, that's kind of like, you don't mind doing it. It's like Isaac as well, right? Binding of Isaac.
well, yeah, kind of. I think in Rogue Legacy is a bit more extreme than that, even because of the meta progression is much more heavy in Rogue Legacy.
Yeah, definitely.
So you are just dying, and then that's actually progress still.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Like, yeah, the gain you get from death in Rogue Legacy is quite large comparatively.
But what Rob doesn't like about roguelikes is, well, basically if they take more than 45 minutes.
Yeah, there's a lot of them that I feel like the runs just take.
I like a
far
short.
too long.
I like
Yeah.
a short run in one of those.
Like, that's why I'm not really that interested in Returnal, because
Right, yeah.
the
Those
runs are just insanely long.
Yeah.
Like, and I can't be bothered with that.
Those seem too long. Even though they've now added, like, you can actually,
Checkpoints or
you can
whatever,
actually
but-
stop in the middle of a run, but, like, I don't know, that seems like it would get quite tedious.
Yeah.
I mean, even
yeah.
Gungeon, one of our favourites, is
Yeah, that
a
takes
little bit susceptible to that, especially if you're doing like the super hardcore runs you've described.
Well, I
but-
mean, yeah, kind of.
Well, even Isaac can take
Yeah, Isaac
a
can
long
take
time,
quite a long
can't it?
time.
Yeah.
But I mean, Gungeon, they did eventually add save points. But like, the trouble with that is I just never want to save mid-run, because then you're going to lose your
the flow. Yeah.
flow of what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, roguelikes and they don't normally get on unless they're quite short, sharp, and
See, I really love the concept of it. Like,
varied. They have to be super varied each run, which rogue that's the weird thing about Rogue Legacy, right? It's not actually that varied each run, but the character thing kind of forces it to be sometimes.
Well, sort of. I mean, in Rogue Legacy 1, it was quite easy to just only pick the most generic ones all the time and kind of cheese it that way. There was no point in playing any of the like mage classes because they were all so weak.
Oh, they sucked.
I think I've been kind of spoiled with roguelikes mostly because of Isaac, because it's so different with all the items every time you play it.
Yeah,
like, it can be
it has so many
varied.
items. That was Isaac's main advantage at the time. Was just like there was so many items, and they programmed in all the compatibility or the way
Exactly.
Combos.
Yes.
Yeah, so after playing the original one of that all those years ago, that kind of spoiled me on roguelikes, I think, because all the ones since then just haven't really hit the same spot, because it's like even Enter the Gungeon is a great game, but all it is guns, right? Everything is a gun.
Yeah.
And it, it's not quite the same as having all this crazy stuff that can happen with Isaac, and
It doesn't give you nearly as many items, so you don't really build up any sort of combos or anything. Rarely.
Yeah.
Occasionally you do.
Yeah, Neon Abyss had that problem as well.
Yeah.
And that it's the things you could get weren't crazy enough.
yeah, that's
And
what I think. They need to
the
do
guns,
more.
The guns were fine. There weren't nearly as many of them as there are in Gungeon. Also, that thing was just an absolute nightmare.
I didn't play that very much. I got bored of that one.
I
fairly
played it a
quickly,
reasonable
but-
amount, but yeah, never beat it or anything like that. And it has a sort of death grind mechanic that I didn't end up liking. Like in order to progress through, like it had a skill tree, a bit like Rogue Legacy, but the requirements to actually move to the next part of
You
that
had to-
tree were
you had to
quite
kill bosses, didn't you?
yeah
Runes
to,
or something,
to
or
a
whatever it was.
point, and yeah, you got some sort of currency back, but like the requirements for those ended up getting quite steep quite quickly. So you ended up just having to do runs just to earn the stuff to then unlock the next thing. And I think there were points in that game where you had to unlock the next thing in order for the run to actually change. And so you could progress the run. And it's like, that's not the right way to do it. That was frustrating.
I'm still yet to find a good FPS roguelite as well. I feel like that could be done really well as well, but no one seems to have done that quite right yet. There's been a few that have tried, but none of them have really.
Yeah, isn't there things like Tower of Guns and stuff that I haven't
Yeah,
actually
and,
played? Or
Ziggurat.
Oh, okay, yeah.
There's another one that was on Game Pass that I've checked out recently, but I can't remember what it was called.
I guess Void Basters falls into that category.
Yeah.
I beat that once. There were other runs you could do in that, but that was quite a long. Oh, the runs were quite short because I suppose you went into a level, right, and you did just the level. It wasn't like a full-on run, but like it had the foot. I suppose the full run, like from beginning to end, was really long, but you couldn't really, or at least I didn't. I'm not sure how you could. I didn't fail out of it. I suppose you could. I suppose there was a fail condition, but yeah, that took friggin' hours to get through just one sequence. Void Busters. Roguelikes. Anyway, that's
News.
News. That's the
The
ramble.
tiny amount of news that we have.
That's the game ramble. Right. What we got? Stock Sega.
And they constitute most of the news this week.
Yep.
Pretty much all of them.
Another quiet week. Quiet couple of weeks.
Actually, before we do video game news, briefly just non-video game news, I guess. Because I suppose we talked about it last week on the podcast, and I thought I'd just bring it up again for like a moment. Turns out Elon Musk probably is going to buy Twitter.
He has bought Twitter, hasn't he?
Well, I mean, it's the same as the Microsoft Activision thing. It's like 6 months until it actually happens.
Yeah. It's going through the purchase process has begun.
But it turns out that poison pill was not like when the people actually looked into it, it was like it basically turned out that it was far too much of a knee-jerk reaction. Like basically the board isn't allowed to block a sale if you make money, and therefore they couldn't have blocked it anyway. And the poison pill that they tried to implement was like way too extreme. Like because when we were talking about it last time, we were like, "Oh, you split the stocks in half, so everyone gets double." But the one they tried to do was more like the stocks would get multiplied by 9, which was fucking ridiculous and way too like it would just destroyed everything.
What, like take down Twitter entirely?
Well, I don't know about that, but like it would have completely fucked up the share prices probably. So basically, the board reacted too extremely and would probably have just been sued by the shareholders if they had actually tried to go through with that. So they pretty much just had to sell. So it turns out it wasn't that much of a difficult proposition after all. It was just going to happen regardless.
It's strange, isn't it, that if someone makes an offer, they have to. They have to sell. That seems odd.
Well, it's because like the job of the board is like literally only to make the shareholders money, and also, especially in this case, the board weren't shareholders themselves, so it's not like their only job is to listen to the shareholders. Basically, they're not allowed to consider what they want to do.
Better bubbly for the shareholders.
Yep.
Better bubbly.
So they pretty much had to, and then apparently they did. So now we just wait 6 months and see if anything fucks up in the meantime. Because
which it will.
Almost immediately, people were like, "Oh, the Elon Musk is already fucking up the contract by saying things." Basically, although if you actually go and look at the actual contract, the buying agreement that they've already created or whatever, it's like there's a very specific. It's like one of those legal documents where it's clearly 2 separate lawyers making it, like the Twitter lawyer and the Elon lawyer. But like in the Twitter half, it's just like generic corporate stuff to do with, merger agreement. But then the little added bit that clearly comes from the Elon side basically just says he's still allowed to say things on Twitter about the deal. It's like he's like got like an anti-NDA. Nice. He's allowed to talk about it and you can't stop him. But then already people are like, well, he said too much, and then that's going to fuck up the deal because there's all weird get-out clauses that, like a $1 billion fine or whatever. But, it's probably fine. And who cares, really?
Yeah. And he'll just do what he wants anyway, probably, won't he? Yeah.
And there was a weird, people were complaining about, we can't just have one man in control of Twitter because, you can't have it be a private company, except it already was a private company. It's like people kind of forget that Twitter is not a public service. In case you haven't already realised that, it was already a company all along. You're just going down from a board of I don't even know how many people were on the Twitter board, 5 people down to 1 person. Not really that much of a difference. So who cares?
I still don't really understand why he wants to buy Twitter.
No, that is the real actual question, is what is he even intending to do? I mean, it can't be to make money, surely.
No.
I think he just wants Twitter to stay around. I guess if you've got the richest possible man and who owns it, it's I guess it won't die. He just wants it to stay alive, and if he owns it, it will.
I mean,
because he could just pump money into it if it's in trouble.
Yeah, but that's not how Twitter stays alive. Twitter stays alive by people using it. It's technically the money aspect is irrelevant in both directions. Putting more money in, unless you're doing actual development onto the platform or whatever. But what can you even do to social media at this point?
Well, I bet you can tweet your car, and then your car will turn its engine on, and then. Or maybe he's thinking of buying Uber as well, so you could tweet Uber, and then Uber will self-drive a Tesla to you.
Or maybe he wants to make his own metaverse, so he had to have a social media company to start with.
Well, maybe. He's got to worry about space first.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's got a lot of things to theoretically worry about.
Maybe he doesn't have to worry about that. He's kind of got that sewn up, right? Has he? Doesn't he? Aren't a lot of the restocking missions that happen now, all managed by SpaceX.
Yeah, but at this point, that's still because he's basically the only person able to do it.
Yeah,
Still, no one else has managed to catch up.
that's what I mean. It doesn't need if you've got no competition, you don't need to innovate.
Well, that is the problem. Like, you do need to innovate if we're going to continue doing this. Although, unfortunately, what he seems to have innovated is throwing a shit ton of extra space junk into space, which is not actually helpful.
Yep. Yep.
So good times all around from the Elon Musk factory to the Elon Musk process. So let's go back to Sega.
The Muskaning. He's probably still just like doesn't quite know what to do with himself after splitting from Grimes, right? It's it's a midlife crisis. He just, instead of buying a car because he's got all the cars, he's
continued to buy all the cars.
Yeah,
More cars.
buy something else. Sega, Sega are doing things.
At last, after they kept saying they were going to for a long time and then nothing happened.
They're doing positive things and negative things all at once.
Which of these is the positive thing, technically?
The positives are like, okay, I'm going to spin it as a positive.
Yeah.
Like, is the announcement of what Super Game Project is supposedly going to churn out. The first of which being a new Crazy Taxi game. Are you ready?
I mean, that seems like far too easy. Whereas like that, how has there not been another Crazy Taxi game by now?
I mean, all Crazy Taxi has ever needed is a Crazy Taxi game with a reasonable amount of content.
Yeah, exactly. It just needs to become an actual game, not an arcade game.
Because all of them have been severely lacking in actual content. They're great games. It's like, especially that first one. I love that first one, but slightly less so. Crazy Taxi 2.
Yeah,
and I don't think I played 3, which was that was on the original Xbox, wasn't it? It was kind of one of their early, like, hey, Sega going all in on Xbox things.
I remember that.
Don't remember High Roller, I think it was called, and they messed up some of the mechanics, and then like it wasn't quite right. So I don't know. I'm quite hyped for Crazy Taxi to come back. Apparently, it's like over a year in development at this point, so it's probably still some way off. Well, unless they are crapping it out like an arcade game, in which case it's not that far off.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's not going to be an arcade game. I think they're just going to make another one in that exact style.
Well, but Sega, like, well, I suppose Sega's still making arcade games.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying they're
backing out of the arcade.
Make an arcade game. Because they're going to say they're going to make a game of an arcade style.
I mean, there's no harm in that if it's priced right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's fine. If it's priced right, or as I say a lot recently, or if it ends up a Game Pass.
Yeah. Which Sega have been doing quite a lot of recently, so it's possible.
Sega have kind of embraced it, so that's good. And the other thing they say they're working on is a new Jet Set Radio project, and they kind of described it as being like a full, not just like a little project, like a full Jet Set Radio thing. That's all we know about that. Admittedly, they stopped there. But hey, Jet Set Radio. The thing everyone's been asking for like 20 years.
And now they're only making it because Bomb Rush Cyberpunk is going to come out.
And steal their thunder. Yeah.
And probably be better.
Probably be better.
They've realised that people did actually want it all along. They weren't just saying it.
The thing is, right, you get loads of stuff like that, though, where people keep going, oh, we want a new one of these. Like Splinter Cell, people always are like, oh, we want a new Splinter Cell.
Yeah.
And Ubisoft have just ignored it for the last 15 years or whatever it was.
But that sort of actually happened for a while, right? They did keep making Splinter Cell games because people were like, yeah, Splinter Cell was good, let's make
But they
more.
just became less and less Splinter Cell.
And they didn't really sell. The last couple in particular, I think, didn't do that well at all.
They were bad games, I think, was the problem.
I think that is the problem. But then, you're outside looking in, you think, oh, Splinter Cell IP isn't worth anything. We won't make any more of those.
It's the Tom Clancy IP that's worth something, apparently.
Yeah, even though all those games sucked as well.
I mean, that can't... The Clancyverse can't be worth that much now. I mean, I know Siege is the thing that does gangbusters for them, and
Division
and Division 2 did all right. Yeah,
they're good games.
Yeah.
Apparently, that new Alien Siege didn't do too good.
Extraction sounds appalling.
Oh yeah, I've played a little bit of that before, and it's not good. It's not fun at all, in my opinion.
No, it's like, just even from the outside looking in, the balance seems wrong. Like you're trying to put Rainbow Six Siege tactics into a zombie shooter. It's like, zombies aren't that stealth.
That's some interesting ideas. Like, if you die, then your character's like, you can't use that character until you rescue it.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. That's kind of cool. But
And there's like an early game, but it's tied more into the early game stuff, right, as well, where it's like your character's actually got XP and up to a point, wasn't it? And then it's like once you reach that point, they're okay. They're not going to lose XP from dying again. Like, there's some interesting mechanics there, some interesting persistence to keep you. I guess what they were going for was invested in your player, and it's like, so fair play to that side of it.
it just felt like a bad Left 4 Dead or something.
Yeah,
It just didn't feel fun.
I think it's hard to knock the concept, except for the bit where they put Clancy in it. It's like if they had done it any other way, it probably would have been okay.
Well, they just put Clancy on everything, though. Every game they make, they just put Clancy on it.
Clancy.
They're making a couple of other Clancy games as well, aren't they? I can't remember what they were now, but there's a new Division thing they're making.
Oh, I thought the Division...
free-to-play Division game.
Oh, okay. I thought the Division team were working on something else.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the same people, but there's a new Division free-to-play thing they're making.
Which always mildly annoys me, because the Division team are massive entertainment.
Yep.
And they should totally just make another one of those RTSs.
But they're not gonna, because they've forgotten that they even made RTSs.
Yeah, it's probably not the same team anymore,
No,
right?
exactly.
It's one of the greatest travesties in the RTS field. What's that game even called? I can't remember now.
World in Conflict.
That's it. Yeah. Thank you. What a great game that was. Yeah, I don't know. There is a shadow hanging over this, though. It's like those on their own, those announcements sound great. The problem is that in the past, Sega, when talking about Super Game Project, have mentioned basically anything under the sun that would make, I don't know, gamers like myself, and I think all of us, go a little bit, oh no, what are you doing? Things like live services and constant money streams and potentially NFTs. And it's like, I hope you backed away from that. And those have been spoken about in the context of quote-unquote Super Game Project. And it's like, whether or not they're actually going to lean into any of that stuff in these is... we have absolutely no idea, because they were just things said in interviews, probably by some marketing guy who's not actually making the game. But they are a little worrying. I don't know if a live service Jet Set Radio is what I want.
Well, no, Jet Set Radio would be the NFTs, right?
Yeah.
Make the graffiti the NFTs.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, you could probably... How many apes do you want in Jet Set Radio?
Yeah, exactly.
Still.
But we do know one thing that Sega is fucking up the business model of.
Yes. 100%. Also, before we move on to that, I do want to say I do follow Hideki Naganuma on Twitter.
Yeah.
And he hasn't mentioned his involvement in Jet Set Radio.
I know.
So
That's sad.
I don't know if he's allowed to announce it or not.
Yeah, I mean, it'd probably be quite early for that.
Basically, half of every tweet he sends is okay. It's a nightmare feed. He knows he's a proper shit poster. So it's like he's lying and making stuff up and talking nonsense the entire time. It's like it's a nightmare. I can't recommend you follow him. However, like a good third, I would say, of his posts or his replies are to people asking when's Jet Set Radio coming, and he's like, don't ask me, ask Sega. That is like most of his feed. So yeah, he either can't say that or my guess is he's not involved.
Speaking of all these old games they're thinking about bringing back, give me a new Golden Axe, damn it.
I mean, they
did that, didn't they? They tried making... didn't they try and turn Golden Axe into like a adventure
but that was
game?
Terrible.
Yeah,
But
in the 360
and they were making a new Golden Axe and it got cancelled, didn't they?
Ah.
And they put the demo on Steam a
right,
year
yeah.
ago, wasn't it, or something?
I mean, it was a super early demo.
Yeah,
it was like
a
barely
alpha or
anything.
whatever.
Oh, yeah, because they put it up there because it's like, yeah, we were making this and we didn't do it, but here you go. Have a look at what we were thinking about.
But it actually seemed decent, though. That was the
Oh,
thing.
really?
But yeah, I want a new Golden Axe now, X. I love Golden Axe. Even if it's terrible, I want it.
But they need to do a deal with, I've forgotten what the studio's called. Is it .emu? That's not a studio, is it? I don't know. Anyway, those guys. The Windjammers 2 guys, because they're the guys that also did Streets of Rage 4.
Yeah.
And Streets of Rage 4 was great. Love that game. Well, you know, it has some Streets of Ragey type problems, especially in the back half of that game, but hey, it was a pretty good return to form for the series. It's like I reckon because it's a beat 'em up, they've done it before. I reckon they'd be a good fit for Golden Axe. Maybe not their current art style. That might need a tweak. I don't think, because they've used the same art style for Streets of Rage and Windjammers, and it's like I'm not sure that's quite the right fit for a Golden Axe. But it'd probably be fine. They could probably do that. But make it pixels.
But that's what we say about
make it 2D art. I mean, like, don't, maybe not pixels, but make it 2D art. Don't go. You don't need to go polygonal with Golden Axe.
No,
not unless it's super stylized. I think that's true of like almost any old game you have to bring back. You have to stylize it now,
or just pixels.
I mean, look at that
advanced was.
I mean, look at that new Turtles game, right?
Yeah,
that new Turtles game looks pretty dope. Talking about pixels, let's do the segue we were gonna do.
Okay, yeah, I guess.
Sonic Origins. I don't even know where to begin with this exactly. This is nightmare fuel. Okay, so Sonic Origins, for those that aren't aware, is a collection of another re-release of the first 4 Sonic games. So that's Sonic 1, Sonic CD, Sonic 2, Sonic 3. Technically Sonic and Knuckles as well, so okay, let's call it 5. Let's be generous, but Sonic 3 and Knuckles was supposed to be one game. It's all of them in one lovely package for not a small amount of money. Was it like 35 quid, something like that, English? Yeah. But those are great games. They've done a little bit of work to them to make them widescreen, finally. Although that work had kind of already been done on Sonic CD, thanks to Christian Whitehead and what he was working on before Sonic Mania. So I guess they get that for free. But the others, they've done the same work too, which sounds good. Why not? But 35 quid. Okay, that's a bit of a rip. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. It's like, it has possibly the worst DLC scheme I've ever seen. Okay, they've put a chart out, and it's not as crazy as a Ubisoft pre-release chart. Those are insane. Those continue to be insane. But this is still pretty weird. Like, so there's the base game. There's like a pre-order set of bonuses. There's 2 or 3 DLC packs. All of which sound like they should have been in the original game, and all of them aren't that cheap either. So, and like they're really struggling for content to just throw in them. Like the one everyone's touting as the super mad one is like character animations in the menus is a DLC feature. That's kind of nuts, right? I suppose in Fortnite you can get like a loading screen, like a change of the change of what is displayed while the game is loading is a thing, and it's an aesthetic, and you can potentially buy those, which is kind of nuts.
Well, I don't think you can buy them on their own, right? You buy them in packs. Like,
oh, right, I see. So you buy
as part of like a skin pack or whatever. It will have a loading screen or something.
Still,
something
it's
anyway.
a weird. Like,
you could buy animated background bullshit for the PS3.
That's true. That is true. So yeah, I could sort of see where some marketing person probably looked at it and thought, it's like, yeah, but we can sell themes for this, and it's like,
except that it'll be one, because that's what Sega does. They make a DLC and they make one thing.
It's one theme for a game, and it's like, why can't they just be animated anyway? It's like you've like just put it in the game.
Sitting in the menu.
Like... Yeah, you want to be playing the game, and then it gets even kind of weirder, but. Like in the fact that they're like they've shown pictures of the menu, and the background of the menu has like the Sonic Islands in them, and it's like you can unlock the ability to spin those islands with them. Whilst you're in the, like, does that mean they're still behind the menu, but now you've got your right stick will spin them? Like
that was just a feature of Sonic Mania.
Yeah,
go into the sound test and then it spins.
Yeah, or like I can't. Like, are you that impatient that you really want to look at this Sonic Island and you can't just wait for it to turn round on its own?
Assuming it does turn around on its own.
Assuming it does. It's so...
What if you fix angle? What if there's a secret on the back? What if you have to look at it from the rear to find the secret code?
It's so weird. And it's like, in terms of Sonic re-releases, this is a very un-Sega thing to do, because like if you look back at even the earliest ones they did, like Sonic Mega Collection and Mega Collection Plus back in the GameCube era, they threw in a whole load of extras, and just the disc was chock full of random bonuses and things to unlock from playing the games. And
didn't it have more games as well, or was it just the same?
I forget what was in Mega Collection. I think it missed Sonic CD. I think it was the early Sonic games.
Because Sonic CD was just real terrible to get to work back then.
Yeah. And Mega Collection Plus was kind of, that was the one that went sort of left field and had not Mega Collection Plus, there was Gems Collection, sorry. Yeah. That was the one that went left field and had Sonic the Fighters and the Game Gear games and, went off in a very different direction, which was still cool. And even their own Sega Genesis collection on 360.
That had loads
loads of stuff in it. And secret stuff, and you could unlock whole other and arcade games. You could unlock whole other things and have other variants of things just by playing the games. Those were great collections at the right price. This is not that. I know Sega know the Sonic fandom is crazy and stupid. Yeah, I'm one of them, but we're stupid people. We must know that. Yeah, this is... And it gets worse. As part of releasing Sonic Origins, because they want you to buy that, they're taking off any other previous re-release and delisting it. So if you wanted to just... the Sega Ages versions of the games, they're going. If you wanted the Mega Drive Classics versions that are on Steam, they're disappearing. And I think those are already a couple of quid or something. I think to get hold of the Mega Drive Classics, it's okay. I know they want you to spend a bit more money, but that's it's angering. It's angering.
And then we just have to wait for December, I guess.
What, when we hear about Sonic?
Yeah, when the game presumably comes out. Because at this point, if they're still claiming it's going to be this year, then it's going to be very late this year.
Very late this year. What's that thing even called? It's not Sonic Zap anymore. I've forgotten what its actual name. Frontiers. There we go. Yeah. Sonic Frontiers. Which is supposedly...
You'll be pissed off about that.
Which I think is the first game, the big Sonic title they've made since they claimed they were going to spend time on Sonic again.
After Forces.
And not worry. Yeah, we're not going to rush this out. We're going to make it good, which is quite an admittance.
But then we'll see whether they actually succeed in that, or whether they even understand what madness was in terms of Sonic. Also, admittance. It's admission, isn't it? Not the right word.
I don't know. I find the collection thing kind of crazy because Capcom are doing that fighter collection, right?
Which is quite a deal in itself.
Yeah, which it's the same price, I think, as the Sonic one, or near enough anyway.
And there's a lot of games that have never actually been re-released.
That's what's interesting about that one. It's got a bunch of fighting games and stuff that have never had a sort of proper home release sort of thing.
Darkstalkers has been quite underrepresented in the in re-releases. And it's quite a well-liked old game, old fighter. It's not one of the... I wouldn't say it's one of Capcom's greats, but it's well-liked, it's well-respected.
Yeah, so admittedly, I don't think they're doing anything to them. I don't think they're doing anything like Sega is with actually upgrading.
Well, they're adding online to all of them.
Yeah,
and
with rollback and all that. But I don't think
which isn't nothing.
No, but I don't think they're doing anything like the Sega one does, where they're actually upgrading the games completely.
Oh no, I don't think so.
But even so, I feel like something like that is a way better.
Yeah, it's a much better package.
Yeah, way better package than what Sega are offering.
Even the was it the beat 'em up bundle from a few years back, which again, same deal. A lot of Capcom games that never made it out of the arcade officially. Were just put in a package, and there was quite a few of them, wasn't there? 7 or 8 of them in that package.
I don't think that one got a physical release though, right? That was just digital, I think.
Yeah, you're probably right. But still, much better bundle.
And it's basically Sega have been doing this for too long at this point. They've already re-released these games 3 or 4 times, and they've just realised that they don't have any more content to release, so they're just shit, we have to re-release the same thing again. Let's just invent some other way to try and charge people money for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice that they put it widescreen. That again, not nothing, but it's a tiny little thing. Yeah. It's I bought that Sonic CD re-release because it's okay, Sonic CD is actually kind of hard to get hold of. And play it properly.
And even to get it emulated is not trivial.
Well, yeah, because especially if you want the actual CD music, there's a few hoops to jump through. But you can do it. And, well, there's that PC version, I suppose, if you can get that to run.
I just think it would have been...
But that was a good version as well, because it was a ground up engine. Like, it wasn't actually the original game. It was Sonic CD, but it was running on the closest damn engine you could make to it, because...
Which is what they're doing with these ones as well, isn't it? They're actually porting them. They're not emulated.
No, it's it's new code.
But yeah, like it would have been nice if they threw in like Sonic Spinball and maybe Sonic 3D or something,
or all of them.
But then but then you can listen to the music from those games if you want, because that's one of the DLC packs. It's like because you can't watch that shit on YouTube already, or
For now.
or quite easily get hold of them, and presumably like that doesn't unlock like the you can just download the MP3 for like a lot of Steam.
No,
it's like no, you have to use the in-game player to just listen to these Sonic tracks that you can listen to anywhere, probably more conveniently. And if you're that much of a Sonic head that you would
probably
be interested in
soundtracks anyway,
you've probably got them somewhere. Yeah, I mean, I can understand that perhaps doing the work for like Sonic Spinball and Sonic 3D in particular probably trickier to do, because they won't be based on the same core code set, I guess. They're not those games. Like they were outsourced effectively. They were written by different teams.
Yeah, of course. But when you're talking about a Sonic Origins collection, they're the sort of I think about those games as well, because they're from similar eras to some extent.
Why not throw in those Game Gear games?
Yeah, like the Game Gear ones as well, because they're much different to the console ones, aren't they?
You're probably not going to get that hooked on a Game Gear game in 2022. I'm just saying, like they're kind of hard to go back to now.
Yeah. Sonic 2 was awful on Game Gear. Do you remember that one?
Oh man, Sonic 2 is one of my favourites.
It was just so trolly, though.
Oh yeah, it was super trolly. Like death jumps and like I remember
the first damn level was really hard.
Well, I remember the second zone in particular with the clouds, and it's like if you were going for a Chaos Emerald run on that thing, you had to memorize the exact cloud which had the springs in them, and because they didn't look any different from any other cloud, and it was just a crapshoot trying to learn exactly where they were. But I did that shit because I was a crazy kid.
Yeah, and you had a Game Gear.
And I had a Game Gear.
What else news? Anything else?
What else news? Splatoon 3 got a date.
Minor news.
Yeah.
Release dates are starting to happen now, I guess.
And it's
later this year.
It's still this year, but it's later, I think, than
not summer. Well, technically it's summer, I guess.
Is 9th of September summer, really? I don't know. I'd sort of think we're in autumn zone there. Anywho, it's a little bit later than planned, but hey, Splatoon 3 is still coming.
They didn't randomly cancel it.
That's well, I don't think it was ever going to get cancelled.
No, that's why I'm saying.
They put out a trailer with they basically showed off all of the new specials. As far as I can tell,
right? Yeah, the crab tank and
the missile launch, the variant of the whaler that like has lots of little beams now rather than one fat one. The sort of was it the jetpack? The sort of sling like grappling hook thing.
Yeah,
it's like a jetpack alternative. Yeah, I mean they all look fine. Like, but my biggest concern is that they haven't really shown us why this needs a 3 yet. It's like
I mean, the 3 will be if the back end works better. that was our whole problem with Splatoon. Just give us a fucking server browsing mechanism that's more functional and less time limited, maybe.
Oh, well, that's the thing, isn't it? They make Salmon Run not have weird zones in which you have to play it. That would be nice. That would be nice. I feel like I need something more. They haven't shown us much about what the campaign is this time.
Well, yeah. Sure.
So they might do something with that. And I want to say they showed with, especially with the Octo expansion for Splatoon 2, that they can mix up the formula a bit and do things and be meta with their structure in ways that are cool. So I want to see more of that. But yeah, I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting for the sort of like, is it something to grab me? Like with it, like what's the real like? I'm not going to complain with more Splatoon ever. Like don't get me wrong, it's like I'm all in already.
I mean, I don't think there's going to be anything that will do that. Like probably quite soon before release, there will be a campaign trailer, I assume, because that will be the big thing. But that isn't like I wouldn't have said that's necessarily really the selling point of Splatoon. The multiplayer is the selling point of Splatoon.
Yeah.
The campaign's just a nice thing to have.
Yeah, you go through the campaign.
But the multiplayer is always going to be the multiplayer. The campaign is the thing that can be different, but that's not really what you're there for, really.
Yeah, I want to see them mix it up a little. Like I'm not quite sure how they would do that, but I want to see them mix.
I
Like
mean, they can invent more game modes, but then that's just more game modes.
I mean, I like that the spawn point isn't a spawn point now, and that you launch in, so you get a little bit more control about where you actually land.
I mean, yes, I'm hopefully reducing spawn camping somewhat, except for landing camping was always the secondary problem of spawn camping, even in Splatoon 2.
Yeah. I mean, even if the thing that grabbed me was just a lot more Salmon Run variation.
Well, sure. I mean, if they make Salmon Run like a full game.
Yeah, they're adding stuff to it, but it still doesn't quite feel like they're adding enough. They're adding stuff to it that felt like they could have done as expansions during Splatoon 2's life cycle, rather than changing it significantly. Well, okay, they've got a few new mechanics that could be interesting, but anyway, Splatoon 3. I'm never not going to be hype.
Yeah, I guess
Are we getting 2 new sisters? That's the question. And a new musical take on the.
I mean,
on Splatfests.
are we going to get more remixes of the same song for the third time for another campaign?
Well, yes, guaranteed.
So now let's talk about PlayStation for a minute, I guess.
What's going on?
What weird shit they've been doing. Basically, because they're doing that thing where they're changing PlayStation Now and all that the streaming stuff. They're merging them and like creating new weird tiers of service to compete with Game Pass, kind of. PlayStation
Plus Premium Extra.
Yep.
/ Ultra.
So because they're doing that, they've come up with these new tiers of service that are, some of them are equivalent to the old tiers, sort of. But then because of that, people were like, oh, the price is going to go up of these certain tiers, so we better stock up on prepaid subscription cards now so that we can just dump all those onto our account, like you would with Xbox Gold or whatever, buy the cheapo cards and then just stack your account with time.
Yeah, what ended up being a pretty generous transition period.
But then Sony have decided to be the exact opposite of generous and basically said no. They're basically not allowing you to redeem any cards or extensions to contracts until the new systems appear.
Oh, right.
Even if you've already bought the cards.
Right, so you can't redeem them now.
No.
But they'll let you redeem them for some
We don't know, because currently the issue is that you can't stack them anymore.
Yeah.
But we don't know if they're going to allow that after that or not.
Well, but the thing they have already said in the new terms of service is that they're going to let you use the old cards or whatever, the prepaid time, except they're going to do a conversion rate on it.
Well, that's fairly standard, yeah.
Yeah, but it's like there's a sort of legal question here, because when you get a time card for the PlayStation, it's 12 months or whatever. And on their website, they're saying, we're going to convert it via the monetary value of the card into a new period of time. So a 12-month card will only convert into 6 months of time on the new system because the price has gone up or whatever.
Assuming you change tiers?
No, well, it's scaled by what tier you go into, basically.
Yeah, because I thought base PlayStation Plus wasn't changing.
Yeah, if it's the base one, it stays the same, I think, and then the higher tiers that you get reduced amounts of time per card.
Which, kind of makes sense. That's what they did with Game Pass.
But then the trouble with that is, legally speaking, they are sort of inventing a monetary value that they technically don't have. The cards only say on them 12 months. It doesn't say this is worth. I mean, it has an RRP or whatever.
Right.
And that changes depending on where you're selling it.
But they're cards for PS Plus, right?
Yeah.
Which is technically the base tier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, kind of, but then because of the way they're merging the two systems together, some people are going to get automatically pushed into a higher tier.
If you have
if you're
now
already
and
If you
plus,
have
yeah.
the two together, you'll get mashed into the higher tier, and then your cards become worth less. Well, not worth less
for what you might want.
for what you paid, essentially. Well, no, not for what you paid. They're trying to make it so
Yeah,
that
that's
what
tricky.
you paid for is the same value, but the time will be different, which is sort
Yeah.
of what the cards say they're going to give you.
I mean, it's tricky because if you're going to get mashed into the PlayStation Now, whatever that tier ends up being, well, like tier 2 instead of tier 3 or whatever. If you're going into tier 2, then how else could you do that? Like,
this is
if you've
exactly
got
the same as-
because you're 12, you're not buying you can't buy just 12 months of PlayStation Plus separately from now.
I mean, that's what we're saying
it's-
about this is why it's different from the way Microsoft did it, because Microsoft just let you do that.
Well,
They let-
for quite a period of time, they kept everything separate, right?
with like the
game-
$1 upgrade or whatever on the time.
In fact, it's still there, isn't it? Everything is
still,
still separated, but that sounds like that's not going to stay that way for much longer.
But yeah, this doesn't sound any different to Game Pass because, like, if you have Game Pass Ultimate and you redeem an Xbox Live 12-month code, it gives you like 4 months of Ultimate or
Right.
whatever. So it's the same principle,
Well,
right?
not even. It'll be like
3 months
now,
or something.
yeah.
But yeah, it's the same principle, right? There's no difference there.
Or like even when the EA Play card trick worked.
Yeah, that one worked for a while,
For a
yeah.
while, but now it's like a 6-to-1 ratio or something like that. So it's like your 12-month EA Play will only get you 2 months.
But yeah, I think the main issue is that they stopped people who have bought cards from being able to use them.
Yeah, and I mean that is also another slightly possibly legal issue because especially in America, in certain states like laws, if you issue someone a gift certificate, which by these count basically in this legal definition, if you give them a gift certificate, you're not allowed to not give them the thing that the gift certificate says on it under any circumstances. Basically, even if your company goes bankrupt, you still have to give them the gift, whatever the gift certificate says you do.
Which presumably is tricky for like I don't know, say PS Plus folds. Or PSN or PlayStation folds, right? And you've got like you've got a £50 gift card.
Well, I mean, there is a time limit to these laws,
Yeah.
where it's like if it's more than 5 years old or whatever, it goes away. But
Sure, but like imagine it's not, and you've got like £50 worth of like service credit on a card that's now the service doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It's like,
I mean,
how does that
that
work?
is basically what this is saying. For this time period where they're not allowing you to redeem the cards, then that's basically illegal under those laws.
Yeah, because I think these cards, people are saying last 12 months or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no indication that they're going to be able to use them after.
Oh, right, because if they've got loads of them, they're now boned.
Yeah, because they're
Because you're not allowed to stack them as well, which is the
Yes.
other half of the problem.
I mean,
we don't know if they're going to enable stacking again or not. Is the thing?
Yeah, true. I mean, Microsoft, they introduced a stack limit at one point.
Yeah,
on
it's
the
3
Microsoft
years
side.
on Microsoft,
Yeah.
but you can still do it.
Yeah, you can still stack it up to that much, which is fair enough.
But that's always been 3 years ever since it
Oh,
came
has
in.
it?
I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Whereas PlayStation, I don't know what the limit was for PlayStation on stacking, or if even there was a limit. I don't know. There must have been something. But
Yeah, presumably.
But yeah, no, it was more the fact that they just completely stopped it and didn't tell anyone they were going to do that.
Yeah.
So people are like buying all these cards. They're like, "Oh, I'm going to stack it up before they do the conversion because it's more favourable if you do it now."
I mean, that's the risk, isn't it? Like on some level, you got played fools.
And in theory, you can maybe resell the cards, maybe, if there will be a
anyone
market
wants
for them.
them, yeah.
Assuming that they do come back to be available at some point.
Oh yeah, there'll be a bit. I reckon there'll be a bit of shift in them, so they'll get picked up. But
But it's just not the best. It's like, it's the opposite of generous, basically.
yeah,
Typical Sony, basically.
Yeah.
yeah, it's
They always seem to make the wrong decision on these things.
they
Like
do. They're not great with their
with the upgrades as well.
service planning, are they?
PS4 and PS5 games where they're like, "Oh, we're going to charge you £10 to upgrade," and stuff like that. Where Xbox is just like, "Yeah, we'll give it to you for free."
You've already bought the game. Why not play what you want where you want? Yeah, I really appreciate Microsoft's approach to this stuff.
I just don't. It seems unnecessarily greedy. You know what I mean?
It's like, well, it's more that they seem a little blinkered, right? It's like they're probably. I think they're still on top this generation.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Not. I don't think the margin is as big as it was last gen.
But that's
like,
only because they can't make enough. If they
Yeah,
could,
exactly.
they'd be way ahead. No
probably.
doubt.
Yeah, I think on You definitely hear more people talking about, oh, I can't get hold of a PS5 than it's like, oh, I can't get hold of a Series. It's like, the conversation seems to be people want a PS5. They're not as desperate to get hold of Series X's. And it's like, yeah, everything seems level pegging at the moment. As you say, because of supply issues. The people that want a console are getting a console. It just seems odd. It's like they're directly competing, or they're
trying to.
They should directly compete because Microsoft are their nearest rival in the space. We count out Nintendo for every possible reason.
Yep.
And they just don't seem to see what happened there and the goodwill it spread. And it's like, if they want to do a similar service for Game Pass, which admittedly they kind of don't. I think they feel like they've been forced into this.
Well, in some ways, this always seems like they just haven't thought about it enough. Like even though it's been ages since Game Pass existed, and you would have thought Sony would have got on that like as a competition thing quite quickly. It almost seems like they've rushed it and then kind of not planned ahead for all these contingencies, and now they're just rushing to randomly change rules and be like, oh shit, what the hell do we do?
Yeah.
And then cocking it up because of that.
In fairness, sounds like how PlayStation Network's architecture was as well. Like,
that's kind of why I was making that reference, because that seems like a Sony thing to do. Abruptly have problems and not know what the shit to do about it, and then just panic.
And then have months worth of development effort to try and solve it.
Well, the whole thing just seems weird, because they clearly don't want the Game Pass model to be a thing.
No.
So they're kind of like half going into it, because what they're offering is pretty poor, right, overall?
It's...
comparatively.
Yeah, well, I think that their top tier comparatively isn't as good as Game Pass. The fact that they are presenting a library at a considerably cheaper price than Game Pass, if you buy an annual subscription, though, that's...
Yeah, but we don't know what that library is, and it could be
No,
awful.
we don't know what it is yet. That's true. But it is coming in at a lower price point than Game Pass. Yeah, you're not going to get day ones on that service,
which I think is the most...
is one of the biggest draws.
Yeah,
absolutely, of Game Pass. But like, it's reasonable, right? It's like, I can see why they would look at services like, I don't know, everyone talks about, oh, it's the Netflix of games and things like that. Let's use that phrase. But you look at Netflix, and it's like, aside from shows that are made by Netflix, it's like they don't get day one releases on many films, right? It's like it happens, but it's not the reason you buy Netflix.
But the thing I see about it is like, if you wanted to play some games that are on that list or whatever, you could buy it for like a couple of months, play those ones, and there's no real reason to keep it, because...
No, you could drop it, or you could...
Because you're never going to get day one releases on it.
Or, the second-hand market for PlayStation and Xbox isn't as strong as Nintendo's, so, picking up a second-hand game isn't quite so painful if you really want to play something. Especially if you're playing, like, big titles that Sony put out, right? Like, you could spend quite a while on them. If you want to play Horizon for a month, maybe, or a couple of months, because you could... It's like, maybe you're better off just buying that second hand for like a tenner. And then...
Yeah, it just doesn't seem...
Also, Sony are really good with their sales, generally, on games. Like they normally bump even their own properties down quite low. Like, I think that was how I played God of War. I think it went quite cheap.
Yeah, it was £5 for a while. Like, literally that cheap.
Oh, yeah, it wasn't that cheap when I got it. But, like, it was like a... 6 months? No, it was nearly a year after it launched when I played it, and it was down to like a cool 13 or something like that, which is a hell of a drop in a year. And it's like, you know what? I'll go in for that, and definitely got. I got a month's worth of PS Plus out of enjoying that,
Yeah, that's just it though with Game Pass. Like, the reason I like to keep my Game Pass active is because the day one releases can be quite interesting.
Oh man, I'm addicted to it. Like, pretty much everything I play is Game Pass.
Yeah,
now,
exactly.
So like...
I've played a few things that aren't on Game Pass, like King of Fighters and Elden Ring, things like that.
Sure.
But yeah, a lot of the things I play are on Game Pass these days, because they put on some really good stuff, and they have really good day one releases on there.
Yeah, they are killing it, and it's only going to get better with all the ridiculous acquisitions Microsoft are making.
Yeah, like Call of Duty on Game Pass, for God's sake. Like,
it's going to happen.
Things like that. And Blizzard games.
It's going to happen.
Diablo on Game Pass.
Oh man, if Overwatch 2 comes out on Game Pass.
It presumably will eventually.
But
it won't at launch, though.
It won't at launch, no. The deal will have won't have been done by the time that comes out, but it'll be there eventually.
That's the thing with all this stuff happening. It's only going to look worse for Sony over time, isn't it? When you've got Call of Duty coming out day one and Overwatch later on.
Yeah, but to go back to something we sort of touched upon earlier, I think PlayStation don't care about the fact that they're annoying people by this move, because the people that are annoyed about it are the people that are super hardcore. And PlayStation has that sort of, I wouldn't say hearts and minds, that's maybe a bit too strong, but they have that sort of like the public mainstream view that PlayStation is games, right? And those people aren't going to necessarily be the sort of person that are going out buying cards to try and stack up and get a deal on their PS
But
Plus.
I also feel like all of these subscription plans are a bit scummy in some ways, because people end up paying for stuff they don't actually use a lot of the time.
Can't possibly use. That's the whole point. That is the whole model,
Exactly,
right?
it's scummy. Like, where it is now, like, all you need is PS Plus, basically, if you want to play stuff online, right? Pretty much, that's all you need.
Mm-hmm.
And even most people probably don't even need that because they play Fortnite or whatever, and you don't need it.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Because of a specific deal.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So it's like, yeah, in that situation, if you wanted to play online, you just buy PS Plus and it's like super cheap, right? Whereas now, you're forced to have...
Wow. Buy super cheap, like still like 40, 50 quid a year.
Yeah, but it's not bad, is it, really, over a year? But yeah, now they're probably going to end up having people in higher tiers and stuff that they didn't necessarily need to be in higher tiers. And
Sony don't care.
No, Sony don't care, but it just comes across scummy again, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Xbox is the same in that sense with the whole Game Pass and Ultimate. Like, you don't really need Ultimate if you're only on Xbox.
That's true. I can't really remember. I mean, I play a few games on PC through that mechanism.
Yeah, I've played a few as well,
not many in the grand scheme. Like, I tried Halo Infinite on PC, but it's like it runs better on my Series X, so that's why I play it.
Yeah, I played a bit of Age of Empires.
Oh, okay, right.
But yeah, like, for most people, you probably don't necessarily need Ultimate, but I don't know if it's actually cheaper to have that rather than Gold and Xbox Game Pass separately. I don't know.
Like I said, that's all changing, so like I don't reckon they'll probably will just be like a tier 1, 2, 3 system coming to Game Pass, right? They'll have like tier 1 will be like Gold is for now, and then tier 2 will be
Xbox only Game Pass or something.
Yeah. It might only be 2 tiers. It's like, I don't know, they might get rid of just Xbox only. Yeah. Anywho, subscriptions. I mean, I know I have too many. I need, like, because I've got Disney Plus and Prime and Netflix, and it's, admittedly, I like Prime's a bonus. I got Prime for the delivery stuff.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
But it's, which, increasingly feels like a bit of a rip-off because everyone seems to be able to deliver fast now. I know Amazon's network is insane, but it's like...
Still waiting for drone deliveries.
Yeah. Or same-day deliveries and the...
Some people on Amazon, you can do that now.
In big cities, yeah. That's kind of a thing. And in fairness, like in Ipswich, it should probably be a thing, given we've got a massive depot now. But...
Yeah, you'd think that would be one of these sort of built-in things for the depots is to just have like a post office attached to them always to it. Just walk in and pick up your shit.
I mean, that wouldn't be bad, would it?
Yeah,
especially for you because you live right next to one.
Yeah, it'd be like, I need this cable or something. I'll just be like, go buy one and pick it up straight away.
It'd be like an Argos or whatever.
Yeah.
Just look in the catalogue, find the thing, and then just the robot goes and gets it.
Yeah.
Or if you want to impulse buy something and just like, I want one of those.
Oh, and I can get it right now.
Yeah. I'd probably end up buying more if I could do that.
Yeah.
Capitalism, woo.
Yeah.
Capitalism, woo.
So now let's talk about games.
Games we have been playing. I'm out of news. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the news. We still talked about it for a good long time because that's what we do.
I mean, we rambled well.
Let's talk about games, I suppose.
Games.
I'll talk about games.
Go on then.
Well, it's been mainly updates, basically, to games that I've already played. So the first one, the oldest one I went back to, I've been doing this weird thing where I keep looking at my Steam list, and it's sorted by last played, like by date, basically. And I keep scrolling down on the Steam list and thinking like, oh, I could totally go and play one. I could totally go for playing one of these games that I haven't played for a while, like I don't know, Planet Coaster or something. And I scroll down the list and I look at it. It's like last played in 2016, and I'm like, I kind of don't want to break that streak. I'm just going to leave it there forever, which is a real dumb thing to randomly think.
Wait, you like the fact that it seems that it says a long time ago?
Yeah, I don't know. And I'm looking at the bottom of the list where it says like, what is the oldest one? Of course, then you get to the point where it's like Steam doesn't remember. Because of when they actually implemented that system or whatever. So there's some at the bottom of the list which is like, oh yeah, I did play that, but it just never has a date. But yeah, I was looking at old things, but like, so the old thing I did go back to, I guess because it actually has, Steve's been doing the thing where it's just been putting the news post for it in my feed.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it prompted me to remember about it, essentially. But like, I went back to Surviving Mars for like a little bit. Although I did like a quick run on easy settings just to get back into it and be like, oh yeah, I remember how all these systems work. But then I got to the really annoying bit where I looked at the achievements list. But because that game has had a bunch of DLC, the DLC achievements are just in that list because that's just how that works in Steam, which is annoying. I think they should actually change that system. Because
have they changed that anywhere else? Do other things split those up?
I mean, the Xbox did at some point, right? They had the DLC achievements were separate.
Not on Xbox, no.
I want to say somewhere did it, but I can't remember where.
I think, was it the arcade games you could have separate achievements as DLC packs for arcade games?
Maybe because you could add more achievements.
Yeah, because you could go past 1,000, right?
Well, you can on normal games as well.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, because arcade games only had a limit. They had a limit, didn't they?
Yeah. 200 at launch.
Yeah.
When Xbox Live Arcade was a thing, it was 200.
But I don't know if they might have still even been in the same list, even if you did.
I think
that
they were.
I think they did get added, but there was like a limit on what DLC packs could have as well. I think it was like 200 for main games and 50 for like arcade games or something like that.
But then what smart people do to compensate for that system usually is make the achievements like a different color, or like have a border or something to let you know that it's a DLC achievement at least, which Surviving Mars does not do. So I looked at that achievement list and I was like, I'm sure I didn't get all the achievements in this game, so let's look at this list and see if I can determine which achievements are from the base game that I could still do, because I haven't even the DLC. And sometimes it's obvious, because it's like, well, all the ones about terraforming is from the terraforming DLC. And it's like, okay, good, I don't need to worry about those. But the problem was that when they do the DLC packs, often like some of the features get backported into vanilla. And one of the ones that I remember happening was they added like a bunch of extra mission sponsors, which are just like it's sort of a difficulty level kind of. So you choose whatever country or company is running the mission, and that gives you certain bonuses. So when they add that, I think in one of the updates, it might not have even been a DLC, but they added some more sponsors, and then they also added some achievements. But the trouble with that is they added achievements that you could do in the base game and achievements that you could do in the DLC pack, but they're both related to sponsors, and you can't tell the difference.
Problem.
So I went through that list and I looked at it. I was like, well, I don't want to do anything too difficult. Well, I was like, I'm okay with doing one of these achievements, which is like do it at 500% difficulty because it's not time limited.
Right.
So I'm like, I can take as long as necessary, be as careful as necessary, and even on the hard difficulty, I can do that. So I picked that, and then the achievement didn't pop after the whole run.
No.
I was like, oh, that must have been one of the DLC ones.
Oh, that sucks.
And it's dumb because, like, the specific conditions that the DLC tells you to do, where it's like, play as this company and 500% difficulty, you can do that in the base game. Like, the company exists, 500% difficulty exists.
It could have just been a bugged achievement.
Well, it could have been, but because some of the other sponsor mission achievements you can get in the base game, and they're no different. It's like, play as this sponsor, do this thing. It's just apparently this one is not. Because some of the other ones aren't, where it's like, some of the sponsors aren't in the base game, so you can't get those, but then you can't tell the fucking difference from the achievements.
Man, that sucks.
It was quite annoying.
That is quite annoying. I want to say PlayStation might be the one that splits it out, actually. I'm trying to remember, like, when I played Spider-Man, and I had all the DLC for that, and I think that actually splits them out. I think. Or at least it has some way of making it obvious.
Right.
Yeah, I kind of wish they did split it on Xbox, because when you complete a game and get all the achievements,
Yeah, you want it to say like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you completed." You want that
You want to completed the game.
Yeah, you want that badge to say I finished. I beat the base.
Well, it's
level.
not just that,
It's
but,
like because that's the problem with the Steam ones, right? You're like, because they expand and they mess up your percentage.
Yeah, that's the
And
thing.
it's
'Cause
like,
you get 1,000 out of 1,000 on an Xbox game. You're like, yes, I've got everything, and then they release DLC, and it's like, now I've got 1,000 out of 1,000, and it's like, oh,
and it takes away your like completed
Yeah.
stat as well, because it's no longer
just because I didn't buy that terrible DLC they released and didn't
Yeah.
play it.
Yep.
Yeah,
It sucks. It's very annoying. And that still applies to Steam too.
I still feel like most DLC is a total waste of time.
Definitely.
Most.
Yes. So there was that. The other not as old thing that I went back to for a moment, because they released an update but I didn't actually play, was because I just went in to look at what had changed. There was the most recent update for Dyson Sphere program. They did something that I thought was kind of interesting in the concept of like one of these factory builder games. Is that they've implemented a thing that is sort of New Game Plus.
Oh, interesting.
So what you do is when you save, it's based on the like world seed. So if you play the same seed, it doesn't like only one of the saves counts if you're playing multiple saves on the same seed. Essentially,
right.
So if you restart the map, but when you save, it saves out your production rate of the science cubes over the last hour, basically. So it just takes it from the production graph. So it's like, how many of the science cubes did you make in the last hour? It saves those numbers, and then like that gets pulled into a meta layer where you can, when you start a new game, that pool of extra science cubes is basically there in every new game that you start, and then you can just use that to unlock parts of the tech tree for free, essentially.
Interesting. So you get, so it's like a passive, basically. You don't need the ability to make those cubes.
Yeah.
You've just sort of got them.
Yeah, so it's sort of, from my perspective, it's not actually very worthwhile because it's too low value.
Also, why? Because
Well, it's
why
because
would you do a level again but easier?
Well, it's because no one wants to go through the early game, right? It's the classic problem with factory games is like the early game is always annoying and boring because you're having to grind through all the same early techs and you're really limited to what you can do.
So is this like for the people that think like, okay, this world was quite nice, I can hyper optimize
Yeah,
this.
I can do it again and better.
I just want to design something nice, but I don't want to have to go through the game to do it.
Well, yeah, or I want to get to the bit where I can actually do the designing faster.
Right. Yeah.
Like I want to be able to unlock blueprints faster or whatever, because
Yeah.
otherwise you have to go through the tech tree to get to that point.
Right, I see. Oh, okay, I didn't realize blueprints was like an unlockable.
I mean, it's not high up the tech tree, but it is a thing you have to unlock.
Sure.
But yeah, so they've added this weird meta layer of all of your saves contribute to this like overall pool that you can then pull out of to unlock techs in one of your games. But unfortunately, from my perspective, it's not really high enough value because like my best factory the biggest one that I've ever made, I was only aiming for like one of each color of cube per second because that's just a convenient number and it's easy to build, relatively speaking. Mainly because it's easily divisible. Like the blue cubes are more like they make 1 in 3 seconds. So you just build 3 labs that make blue cubes. There you go, 1 a second. Easy maths.
Easy.
And also that sort of scale of building was what I could manage, like without getting too ridiculous. So I was like, okay, I can do that. I can just design a blueprint where I can basically just lay down an entire factory that builds 1 cube per second, and that's fine. But then if you're thinking about 1 cube per second, and then that gives you like 60 of the meta cubes, and that's like, you know, the first 6 techs on the tech tree. That's basically nothing. And then that also applies to every color of cube, except obviously when you get up to like the green cubes, which are like the last tier, well, apart from white, but that's special. Once you get to the green cubes, where it's like it's still 1 per second, so it's still 60 green cubes, but then the techs are like so much more expensive. That's like a fraction of one of those unlocks. Or at least I assume that's how it works because I didn't play the game, so I didn't get very far up the tech tree to see if it scales directly with how much they cost to unlock. I assume it does. But then again, like, for me, I don't feel like that's very worthwhile. But I mean,
but it's something, right? If you do want to do an early skip for some reason, it's there. But then it's like skipping the prologue, right? If you don't need, if you want to play GTA Online, you don't have to play the GTA 5 prologue.
Yeah, that's true. But then I think it's more beneficial for the people who build ridiculously huge factories to sort of basically give them a reason to play the game over again, because then they don't have to suffer through the early game. They can get back to building big new factories, but in a new universe. And it also benefits people who make a lot of saves. Like if you get to a certain point and decide you don't like this factory and you want to start over, it's still, you're getting a small amount of benefit from having even played that factory.
Yeah, okay.
So it's basically exactly not beneficial for me in the way I would hope.
Are they rogue legacying the factory game?
No, I don't think it's going to go roguelike. I mean, apart from randomly generated universes.
Well, give up on a run and you get slight benefits for the next one.
Yeah, I mean, you do kind of, I guess. But yeah, that's quite a weird system that I never would have thought of for a factory game exactly. A weird new game plus.
Could it be like almost like if you're a real company starting again, like where you're just like, well, we've got all this capital.
Yeah,
I mean, we've got all this money.
I guess there is one other. I was trying to think of any other case where something like this has happened, and now that you mentioned it, there is actually one other one, which is Prison Architect. If you choose to basically exit, well, you sell the prison that you've already built, and then you take that money into the start of a new map. So you basically start with more cash.
Oh, okay, but that doesn't have to be the same map in that instance. No. It's just, okay, we're moving on.
Yeah, you just move from one save to another, and then you get like a cash bonus.
I guess that was sort of like, wasn't that like the core structure of like, or at least from a story perspective, the like core structure of like how Theme Park and like Roller Coaster Tycoon and games like that were. It's like, you're done with this park, you're moving on.
Yeah,
like,
well, yeah, I guess so. But then it definitely wasn't like that.
No, it's like it didn't, like, if you did well on a level, it didn't make the next level easier.
No.
Or perhaps it should do it the other way.
Well, yeah, make it harder.
You're doing too well at this.
Well, I mean, but that's what difficulty progression usually does. The game gets harder as you get further in.
You'd hope.
And it's like in Theme Hostel, you definitely don't get to keep anything because you get promoted to your new job where you have to manage an even worse hospital. So yeah, that was Dyson Sphere program, and then the big medium patch for Deep Rock Galactic came out, Season 2. I call it the medium patch because it's clearly not as much as Season 1, but it is.
No, but it's still got some new stuff.
Yes, it's got some new stuff. So yes.
Lots of weapons.
Well, one more secondary weapon for each class. Although from what I've been able to tell from the previews, and I've only unlocked like one of them so far, but like, I'm not sure any of those secondary weapons like fit the role of the classes very well. Because it feels like, at least, I mean, the gunner one is sort of fine. It's just like another pistol, essentially, just with a fancy, like, it penetrates the terrain. That's its fancy thing.
Right. Yes, I did see the patch note about they've added piercing. As a thing.
No, piercing is for the crossbow. It's a new damage type.
Oh, right.
Specifically for the crossbow, for the scout. But yeah, so the gunner one is just like another pistol, and that's fine because all of his secondaries are pistols. The scout one as the crossbow, I feel like that one is too much like overlap with his primary weapons, because his primary weapons are basically long range accuracy, and then you've got the crossbow, which is naturally long range accuracy, because that's what that is. Whereas his other secondaries are the exact opposite: short range, high damage,
get you out of trouble.
Yeah, the spam gun,
a shotty sniper, basically.
Yeah. So I like that. Feels like a weird overlap on that one, and then the driller. His primary weapons are all like area control, like the flamethrower and the freeze ray and the goop gun. So that's all like damage over time in an area. And then his secondaries, this is maybe slightly more on the fact that I usually play solo, but like his secondaries are the ranged guns for him, right? For picking things off at a distance that your area of effect guns can't hit.
Right, yeah.
But then that's exactly the opposite of what the microwave gun does. It's just another area of effect, sort of close range, do a lot of damage to a bunch of enemies. Although I think in his case, that gun is sort of specifically designed to be a combo gun with his primaries, because some of the unlocks in the tech tree give it like extra buffs to enemies that are already on fire or already poisoned.
Oh, right. So you could spec
so
it to be more
you fire your main weapon to set up the damage over time, and then switch to the microwave gun to do extra damage, essentially. Although from what that is the one that I've unlocked, and from playing with it, it has way too little ammo. You just burn through it so quick, and then you're like using up one of your whole weapon.
But that's most of the secondaries, right? Most of the secondaries are quite low ammo.
Most of the regular pistols, like the gunner one and the driller's regular pistol, those have quite a bit of ammo, and you can spec them to have a lot more.
I guess because I play engineer, like his secondaries are are pretty low ammo.
Well, in the engineer's case, his secondaries are like the big damage dealers of his kit.
or the comedy area, like as I've tweaked my breech cutter to be.
Yeah. Well, it's like big single hits almost. You fire one shot and it does a lot of damage, essentially.
Yeah, I suppose.
But then, so his one is the one that feels closest to that role, the big laser beam, because it does a lot of damage, and it is like naturally single target because you're aiming at a thing. But it's not like a one-shot thing; it's like a hold down, which is sort of fine. I think that one's probably the closest to the engineer's usual secondary style. I think that fits the best. And then, that's so. I don't think necessarily all of those guns fit with the other class roles, but maybe I'm slightly biased by being a solo player, so I kind of with the driller I need to have the long range ability to pick stuff off because no one else is going to do it for me.
I was about to say, like, mate, if you're playing in a four player or even a 3-player squad, like having the scout be nothing but long range probably isn't that bad because you've got the other characters to try and pick up that panic moment.
Yeah, exactly. So it's probably slightly biased by being single player, but then I can just not use them, I guess.
True.
But then, speaking of another thing that is probably maybe overly balanced towards multiplayer and not solo, the new hacking event, which isn't a new mission, it's just one of the little random things.
Oh, right, I see. I sort of assumed it was a whole new mission type, not that it's just a side thing that can appear.
Yeah, it's just like the other data deposits or whatever, where it just randomly spawns. But that new hacking event is fucking impossible in solo. And it's really annoying. I'm sure you can do it in solo, but I feel like it's very dependent on the cave generation as well. Because the way it works is you have the central hub thing, and then you have cables that come out of it, with the giant tetrahedron thing, whatever that's called, the caretaker, with the power lines that go to the power stations. It's like that. You have the little cables that come out and they go to these little rotatey things that stick on the walls. And there's 8 of those spread around it in the vicinity. Not very far away. That's it's a couple of seconds away from it. But then once you trigger it, you have to look at which cable is lit up, go to that node, do a hacking mini game to disable that node, and you have to succeed that 3 times.
Is this a little bit like when you hack the down drones that are still alive?
Yeah, it's a different version of that hacking mini game.
But something simple. But
it's a bit more complicated, which is slightly one of the problems with it, because it takes longer. But the trouble with it is, so you've got to complete 3 of these hacks within 2 minutes to finish the whole thing. But each of those little nodes, when you go to hack it, that has its own time limit. And it's super short, and that also includes the time for you to walk to the thing.
Oh, wow.
So I've never actually succeeded.
So you kind of need people count.
You need to have a team
out,
to be standing on, to be able to see more of them at once.
This one's mine.
Because I feel like you almost...
how far apart are these things as well? Can you defend each other?
Well, it seems like it doesn't really spawn very many enemies. When it triggers, I think it limits the number of enemies that spawn. A few will just turn up from time to time. But it's mainly just worrying about the event.
So unlike most of the others, it's not really a horde.
No, it's not horde mode. But especially in single player, I feel like the amount of time it takes for you to look at the cable, identify which one it is, move to which one it is, open the hacking window, the reaction time to even perceive what you've got to then do on the hacking window, and half the time limit is already gone, and you only have probably a couple of mistakes in a 6-step process before it just kicks you out of that node, and then you have to do that 3 times within 2 minutes. And if you fail, the thing fucking explodes and probably kills you. Well, not quite.
I suppose if you know you're going to fail it, you can just be like, "Oh, I saw this, run away."
Yeah, I mean, it gives you a reasonable amount of time to run away, but I've never succeeded. I mean, I've only done it twice, so low sample size. Obviously, the first time I didn't even know what the fuck I was doing. And also, I think the first time it broke, the cable stopped lighting up.
Oh.
And there was still 50 seconds on the clock.
Huh.
So I don't know what happened there. That might just be a bug. But the second time where I was like, okay, I know what I'm doing now, and I still totally fucked it up. Wasn't even close. So yeah, that's maybe... I feel like that could have player count scaling.
Yeah, maybe.
Like if you're in solo, it should just give you like 50%
a little
more
bit,
time,
a little
or
bit extra time. Yeah,
per node, not overall.
yeah.
That would help a lot. And then there's that new robot enemy, the gravity
Nemesis.
arms. That's quite bad. I mean, not bad, dangerous.
Was it, no, is it the Nemesis?
Nemesis, yeah.
Was there a Glyphid called the Nemesis already?
Yes, the blue one that fires from far
So
away.
I've got a rival Nemesis and a Glyphid
Glyphid
Nemesis.
yeah.
That doesn't seem like well thought through.
No, I guess not. I didn't even realise until you said that. I was like, oh yeah, I guess it is the same thing. But yeah, I'm not sure what the spawn rules are for it. I believe it's one of the ones that spawns at the start of the mission at a low percentage rate, like when the gold detonator spawns.
Okay, yeah.
Because the gold detonator is like a 3% spawn per mission just from the start of the mission, so it will just be there when you arrive.
A little bit like the rival ship things that float around.
Oh, the prospectors. Yeah, I guess similar. Yeah, but it seems like it probably has that, but at a low percent, like the detonators. But then there's a new warning, like a new mission modifier for rival presence that basically just makes robots spawn throughout the mission. And that seems to make it spawn a lot. Like, I literally had it twice in a row.
Oh, wow.
And it is similar in sort of danger to, like, a detonator. It's like, basically, if you go anywhere near it, you just die. Like, that grab is unavoidable, and it just kills you in a second after it grabs you. So there's no chance to, like, escape it. Well, I mean, if you have the heightened sensors thing, you can just quickly pop it and pop back out.
I see. So it's like a moving cave leech.
Yeah, except even faster and more dangerous. And apart from that, it doesn't really do anything. So that's, that is the trick.
Stay out of its way.
Stay out of the range and then just fill it with a million shots because it does take quite a lot of damage. And then it has a sequence after you kill it where it just teleports a bunch of bombs in. So that's slightly dangerous too. But but yeah, and it can also dig through walls like the large enemies can.
Oh, God damn it.
So yes, it is.
So once you aggro it, you're stuck fighting it.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's very slow as well, so it's like a detonator. You can just outmaneuver it relatively easily.
Oh man, the detonators always get me.
It's just an ammo sink, basically. You have to put quite a lot of fire in it at its specific weak points because it's armored, and it's also spooky.
Spooky.
Well, it's because it does because it's the rival tech that's meant to be specifically anti-dwarf or whatever. It basically plays voice lines from the dwarves of like saying that they're downed or they found something, but like distorted. So it's it's quite creepy when you can hear it coming.
That's kind of cool.
And then when you blow it up, it's like, I'm so cold. Only in a dwarf voice.
Excellent.
I'm so alone.
Also more, I noticed the patch notes. Slightly more dwarf speech.
Well, yes, they have given quite a lot of new voice lines. To mission control as well, which also helps.
Excellent.
When he's calling more swarms.
Excellent. That's what that. Yep, can't complain with that. All of that voice work is excellent.
And
Give us more.
New variations of Rock and Stone.
Yes! Oh, okay, now I'm excited. To the bone.
Yep. So yeah, that's season 2. Oh, and also, unfortunately, it seems like not much has actually changed in the script tree, the script unlock and the season pass.
So that's still quite a grind.
Yeah, the grind seems about the same, and also, I thought there would be less script in the level progression, but it seems like there's just as much. But then also all the extra because the tree is just bigger.
Oh,
I think there's just more nodes.
Interesting. So it's actually going to take you longer to finish this one?
Yeah, it's going to take you longer to finish, but you'll be able to get some more of it faster because of the extra line of the extra script.
Okay, so there's okay, so you can gain script at the start quicker.
Yeah, but it's still spread out through the whole tree.
Oof, all right. That doesn't sound like they changed anything like what they were saying.
No, I was really hoping for at least the XP rate to go up a bit.
Yeah, because that was. I mean, that's one of the reasons I didn't really engage with it that much, or I didn't feel the need to do a whole season passy type grind on it because it's like this grind is too much.
No, but then luckily you didn't have to do that at all because all the season 1 stuff is in the drop pool anyway, or the shop, drop pool or shop, depending on where it goes. Also, weirdly, I I figured that the new cosmetic material that you use to only buy cosmetic stuff, I figured that was going to be quite common, but it seems quite rare. I've only seen it in like 2 of 8 or 9 missions, I guess.
Okay.
And it spawns in very small chunks as well. So you really don't get very much of it.
Do the dwarves say something funny when you look at it?
I don't know because I've only been playing in solo, so I can't. I tag it as
Oh,
Bosco,
of course,
so I don't get the proper voice lines.
Yeah, they don't shout it out.
So we'll see.
There's more.
We'll see when we get into an actual game. So yeah, that's the Derg patch.
Derg.
That's more or less all I did.
Alrighty.
Kippers, you want to talk about some number of games? You're not on a 2-week schedule. You can talk about whatever games you want, really.
Yes.
Whatever you fancy.
I've played quite a few games the last couple of months or so, but a couple of news things that we didn't mention that aren't really that interesting, but before I mention them anyway. New Valorant character came out.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Can't remember what the name was now, but there's a new character.
No, I can't.
That just came out this week. And also there's that new BR mode in Rocket League that came out.
Oh, yeah.
The stupid Smash Brothers-esque
Yeah.
thing almost.
I've played a few rounds of that. What is the grab button in that? Because, like, I couldn't figure that out. Like, it doesn't, like, I read the instructions and it just says, press the grab button and dodge. And I'm like, what is the grab button?
Oh, no, I was about to say, is it not just the fire button from Rumble?
Maybe. I can't even remember what button that is.
Well, no. Isn't it like click left stick by default or something?
No. Oh, maybe. Oh, is it? No, it's the boost button, isn't it? It's in Rumble.
It's not the boost button, because otherwise how would you boost?
No, it's the boost button, because you just... Yeah, it's the boost button.
No, it's not.
It's the boost button.
It's not. It's a separate button in order to be able to fire the power-ups. That's the whole point.
I'm pretty sure it's the boost button.
It's not. Unless you've configured it to be the boost button, in which case that's your problem.
Well, maybe. I thought it was just the boost button. It's always been the boost button for me.
How would you control the power-ups if you automatically fired them every time you boosted?
You control your boosting.
No, clearly not. Anyway.
I'm pretty sure it's the boost button.
No.
Yeah, that wouldn't make any sense at all, would it? Like, if you had, like, the punch item or something, and you're trying to, like, get down the field and you want to boost there.
Or you wanted to time your punch so that you can...
Oh, no, yeah, but you're out of the... That's kind of the trick. You're out of the range of the punch. And then
That is not the trick. That's
boost-
not how this works.
You boost into range, and then you tap it again, and it punches.
I mean, you could... I don't disagree that you could bind it to the same button, because Rocket League will let you do dumb things like that. You can totally bind weird controls to the same button if you want to. But I'm pretty sure that's not how that's meant to work.
Maybe I've had it wrong or configured weird for something. Because I did move my boost button, right? It's not on B for me.
Yeah.
It's
So maybe you configured it to the same button.
possibly, yeah. Because mine is left bumper, my boost.
Because that's what I had, like, why I have the scoreboard on back instead of left bumper, because, well, actually, I don't have anything on left bumper now because I was just pushing it accidentally all the time, which is why I moved the scoreboard off it.
So I'm much, since I've put boost onto left bumper, I so much prefer that. It's so much better.
Anyway, what was Gibbs talking about?
The battle royale mode, was it called knockout bash or something?
I don't know.
Yeah, something like that. I've played a few rounds of that. I can't remember what the grab. I haven't done a grab, but it's all right, I guess. Like, it seems to play just fine, but it's like it's not that. I mean, it needs to be. I feel like there needs to be like twice as many cars at least in
Right,
it.
you need bigger teams.
Yeah, and it gets a little bit sparse of it because it's live based rather than time based.
So you end up with even less cars.
Yeah, it just diminishes over time and becomes less interesting over time. And even their like mechanics when the match has been going on for a while, they don't feel like they're enough, right? So they start shrinking. They have this like orange area that's miles away from the arena at first that you can't be in for, like, you have to be outside. You have to be inside it, but if you're outside, you get like a 5-second, 10-second grace period to try and get yourself back in. So, you know, there's some smash, there's some leeway to get back and return to the battlefield kind of notice before you actually die. So that starts shrinking after like 5 minutes, I think, of the fight. So that shrinks so it's pretty close to the actual map, but it never actually starts encroaching the map. It's always outside of it. And then after a few minutes after that, it then says, oh, you're on like massive damage mode or something, where each hit suddenly sends people flying much, much further. But it's not quite as it's not quite 300% mode in Smash Bros. It's like you're still pretty survivable in that state at times. Especially if you get your angle, because a few of the changes they've made is like boost is now super directional in the air. So if you're like flying the wrong way and you angle yourself and boost, you're pretty much just going to stop on a dime and start boosting in the direction you need to go to try and get back. You also get 4 dodge rolls in the air now without a flip reset, and 2 double jumps. So it's a triple jump, I suppose. So you get a lot more. You get a lot more air maneuverability. You can also, the walls are now like quite even more magnetic than they are, I think, as well than in the stadium. So you can just hang out on a wall a bit easier. If so on your way back, for instance, if you're attached to the vertical part of the wall and then drive back onto the arena, that seems easier than it does on the stadiums. Maybe I'm just, that one I could be wrong on, but it feels easier. I feel like it's...
I also just want to point out, you said you get 2 double jumps, but 4 flips, except that's the same thing. So how is that?
Not quite, because like if you a neutral jump is treated...
It still counted as a flip?
Yeah, it's not here.
Okay.
They're split up. So in the bottom of the screen, like you get they show you how many you've got left. It puts a counter over 2 just straight up neutral jumps, and 4 dodge rolls. So you can do a neutral jump twice in the air. Like how you get a quick launch to get high, right?
Oh, yeah.
Bang, bang. But you could do it 3 times if you wanted to go bang, bang, bang.
But that would normally count as a flip, because it's the same thing in regular Rocket League.
Yes, yeah. but it doesn't here. They split it up. So you do a punch attack on every dodge roll except for backwards. If you do a backwards flip, that counts as block, which will basically reverse the effect of anyone trying to attack roll into you. And grab, I think, will just negate any block that's being attempted. So if you charge at someone and grab dodge into them, then you'll negate their block. I think attack on attack does nothing. You just sort of bump each other and then just sort of stop. And that's all that really is. And there's a spiky wall that if you hit, you die immediately. I don't know.
It's more complicated than most of the modes of Rocket League, but it's still like not particularly great.
No, they've put the effort in, but I don't think it quite works. Like either the arena's too big, or maybe they should have just done a timed match like Smash Bros or something. I don't know. Something's not flowing quite right with it. Anyway, they put work in. It's weird to see it.
Yeah.
It's nice to have something slightly different to do. I play like one match of it and then go, all right, back to the normal games.
Might as well do that in any of the other modes. I
quite like the extra mode, so that's where I spend a lot of my solo time is in extra.
Game skippers.
Something other than Rocket League.
Yeah, which I haven't played for like a year and a half anyway.
You should try Sideswipe. Sideswipe's good.
Yeah, I might do. That one looks alright.
Yeah, the matches are real quick, and it's just...
Well, that's like me and League of Legends, right? I quite like League of Legends, but...
Do you?
I like the mobile version better, I think.
Okay, yeah.
Which is Rift or something. Legends of the Rift or something. That's what it's called. Rift Legends, I don't know. Something like that. But it's good.
They like Rift. Yeah. Too many legends.
It's a good entry point as well, because it's just like a quicker version, not much quicker, but
yeah. Didn't I try to add that as like a permanent mode into like Dota or something, like a
I don't know
Blitz mode or something that's like half the game length? Still means they're like 20 minutes long.
But yeah, so probably the biggest game I've played that you guys haven't really played, I think, is Elden Ring.
Yeah.
I don't know why I bought into it. Really. Well, I do know why I bought into it, because I got it really cheap.
That is the classic answer.
Yeah.
It's like Game Pass. Why are you playing any game? Oh, Game Pass.
Yeah.
It's like, why on earth would you try that? It's not Game Pass. I thought I'd give it a go.
Yeah. So it's a bit like that. I had opportunity to get it cheap, so I was like, right, okay, fine, I'll give it a go. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's raving about it. Might as well see what this is all about. I'm definitely not a Dark Souls, person. I've not really played Dark Souls before. I've played like the first one a little bit, but not much. I played like an hour or two of it. But yeah,
I mean, Zach's played Dark Souls, but you
played about as much as Kippers.
Yeah, you fell off, didn't you?
But yeah, this. So I thought I'd give it a go. the first thing that really sort of hit me with this one is it feels exactly the same as the original Dark Souls, pretty much. Like, it doesn't seem like they've changed anything in that regard.
That's what every FromSoft game looks like to me. It's like, this is the same.
I mean, I from not playing it and only seeing it, I felt like Bloodborne looked
Bloodborne's the one
different.
Bloodborne's the one that stands out a bit to me. Sekiro maybe a touch as well,
but that's more just because of like the weird grappling and stuff. That
absolutely.
Like Sekiro is just a different way to play.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't play the same as Dark Souls because it's all about parrying and it's all about the blocking and
a little less
you
stamina.
don't get weapons and stuff like that.
Okay, right.
It's a bit of a different one, but yeah, Elden Ring. The biggest thing that I noticed with Elden Ring is the controls. They're the most difficult part of the game, in my opinion, is the damn controls.
That's pretty similar to the original Dark Souls.
Yeah, and then the reason that I find it so difficult is this input buffering that they seem to have on this game, which I think is a Dark Souls thing as well, but it seems like they've made it 10 times worse in Elden Ring, like much longer buffering time or something. So, for those that don't know what I mean, is like if you attack and then you press attack again before the animation of the first one has finished, then it will buffer another attack. So it will just do attack and then
you'll go into your second attack.
Yeah, or like if you're rolling and you double tap roll, it will buffer both rolls. So you'll just roll twice.
Oh, I see. So even if you're like meh on the button,
it'll buffer
you're going to get a double roll whether you want the second one or not.
Exactly.
It's like you're playing classic arcade Killer Instinct and you're inputting an entire combo and then just walking away.
Oh yeah, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's...
Or even to a lesser extent, even the old Tekken games, I think, used to do that to some extent.
Well, all fighting games have buffering.
There's some amount of buffering, yeah. I seem to remember like early Tekkens being quite buffery in that you could do some of that, but
not as much as modern
not
ones,
nearly, because most of the time you just get hit out of it and it's fine.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the biggest challenge I've had with this game is getting to grips with how the controls work, because I'm not used to a game that has this kind of system where you're like locked into the animations.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me sounds like...
the animation locking...
Animation locks aren't unusual.
Exactly the same.
Not.
The buffering on top of the animation locking is the bit that makes it the most difficult.
And I think I'd find that the worst, because I'm into my character action games where I can press dodge it. Yeah, I mash, and like I'm into my character action games where I can press dodge at any time.
Yes, and it just does it. Yeah.
Which is why I love Bayonetta so much.
Yeah, which is what I'm not used to. I'm used to the games, as you say, like that, where if I want to dodge, I'll press dodge and it'll dodge.
Yeah.
Whereas this, you can't if you're already doing something else.
Yeah, I already knew you were committed to the move you were doing.
Which makes sense, but it's the buffering bit I don't like, because I tend to, like, if I want to roll, I'll be like, right, I want to roll now, and I tend to, like, mash it to try and get it to do it.
It's like, oh god, roll now.
But because I've mashed it, it's buffered, like, another two or whatever.
A whole string of them, yeah.
So I just wish it didn't have buffering. Like, don't do anything until the animation is finished, and then...
Or maybe have a small window of it.
Or a much smaller window, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, you're in the last few frames of it. Yeah, sure, go. Well, because a lot of games have to do that anyway to make them feel like they're responsive. Yeah, because you're never going to get your timing perfect.
But yeah, it just feels like it's way too, like... The buffering period is just way too long, so I end up always doing, like, more attacks than I want to, so I end up getting hit, and things like that. But that's more because of how I play, more than anything. But it does feel kind of like antiquated with how it works because of it. But that is what people like about Dark Souls, I think, for some reason.
There's a certain button that's pressed in people, I think, for having to learn that discipline. And it's a button I never have.
No, it's a tough habit to break.
It's a button I really want to learn. Because it's like it's my fighting game problem as well.
Yes,
like I want the discipline to be able to play fighting games properly, because I kind of I mentioned this several times on the podcast. I kind of love the systems behind fighting games, and I love trying to learn how their systems function. I do not have the dexterity that those games require of you.
No, speaking of that, I picked up King of Fighters 15.
Oh yeah.
Because I was like, I want to play this. It looks awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, trying to actually do anything in that game is very difficult.
I've never played a KOF.
It's a cool game. I really like it, but actually being able to do anything is not so easy. Because the problem I'm having with that is you have to input the commands so damn quick. I can't do it quick enough. I just cannot do it quick enough. That was always my problem with Street Fighter as well. Like, because I spent quite a lot of time trying to get into Street Fighter 4, and because I think you got me one of them, right? Like one of them. You know, so I put the effort in to try and learn it, and that was when I got my arcade stick as well, and I was trying to.
cannot do it as quick as that game requires.
And then weirdly, like Smash Bros. Ultimate with the Street Fighter characters has the inverse problem where you actually have to deliberately do it slowly to get it to register.
Yeah, it's a weird problem I have.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And I know every fighting game is different on that front, but it's
because that's the thing as well. It's not just about doing it quick. You have to do it in the right timing. As well as being quick. So some moves are like, you want to do this quick, and then you have to wait like half a second and then do the next bit. And
Street Fighter is very much that.
It's really hard to get that right. I'm just not good at that at all.
Yeah. I mean, if you go into like, was it Street? I think that some of the, I'm not sure if the original 4 had it, but like Arcade Edition upwards and stuff, like they had these like trial modes where it's like, here, do this sequence of events, and like you need to do this precise combo.
Yeah.
But getting that to actually work the way it's telling you to make it work, next to impossible. And
King of Fighters has that as well, where it has like a challenge thing where it gets hard. For every character in the game, you get like a combo challenge or something.
Yeah.
Where you go through and you get harder and harder.
Don't get me wrong. I understand there's probably a point where you probably shouldn't be able to do it unless you're good, right? Because that's the whole point in those modes. But it's like,
sometimes even the most basic stuff is like
really hard. Yeah,
like stuff that's actually fundamental to the game.
Yeah,
like there's a thing in King of Fighters called super hopping or something, where you have to go like up down and it'll do like a short hop or something, and you can do moves while doing like super hops and stuff.
Whilst in hop stance.
Stuff like that. But just doing that is
up down is always a pain
because it's quite a movement, isn't it?
Yeah, and like it depends on like how much dead zone it gives you to not go precisely straight up and down as well.
But then, of course, like
it's like the alternative, something like games with super jump where you down up.
And
it's stuff like that in there, and then you've got like all the special moves are like quite annoying to do, and you've got obviously got like Z moves and all the.
I was about to say I thought KOF followed quite
it's very
Street Fighter-y model.
It is, but there's a lot of mechanics as well, and I can't remember half of them, which is part of the problem.
I still think nothing beats the tutorials in The Last Killer Instinct. I think they did an absolutely incredible job at explaining how its systems work. And the tutorials in Skullgirls and are fantastic, teaching about how the intricacies of the systems and their weird infinite combo blocking protection and how that all functions. And it's like, I don't know if I've seen a fighting game go that deep on how its systems work. And it's like even like Soul Calibur 6, I think the only depth it went into with that was like text. Like you could read some text and how that stuff worked, and they didn't really give you like practical examples and how it was. They went to the effort of like writing character sheets for people to be like, oh, this character probably would start with this sort of thing, and then you want to think about doing this. Wouldn't really tell you how to do that particularly.
That is the hardest bit about fighting games, is like with the combos and stuff. Like it tells you the commands you do, but it doesn't necessarily tell you how to input them, if you know what I mean.
What's the nuance to it?
But you can watch them do it like as a demo with the command list up, and it will like showing
you the timing.
It doesn't really help because most of the time they're so quick, you can't really. Yeah, that's the bit I struggle with. But which is why I like Killer Instinct, because it's super easy.
Yeah. It's really.
There are some like nuanced things like shadow cancelling and whatever, and various things like that. But they're not hard to do.
Very little in that game was hard to pull off. It was you memorized the systems and then you could have a good time. You didn't need to necessarily know the execution wasn't that game's problem. And I wish more fighting games were like that.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's really accessible, but also quite deep as well, even though the stuff is easy to do.
Yeah, I think it poses a problem on the competitive scene, because obviously, like if you design a game that way, you're probably introducing a lower skill ceiling.
Yeah, definitely.
But I don't think that's for the majority of people. That can't be a bad thing, surely.
No. But yeah, that's kind of how Elden Ring feels in some ways. It is a bit like a fighting game in that respect, where you have to be really precise with your inputs and to not buffer stuff that you don't want to happen. And
I still think that game would wind me up somehow.
Oh god, yeah,
of course it would.
But yeah, in terms of the like, other than the controls, which are just a nightmare for me a lot of the time, the actual game is actually pretty cool. Like I really like the world. The world is sweet. Like the world is huge. Like I've played, I think like 35 something like that hours now, and I've barely scratched like probably a quarter of the map at this point.
Oh yeah, I've definitely seen tweets where people have put like 200 hours in, and that's them just beating it, not even like finishing, like do it like doing the game. It seems
It's huge. It's ginormous.
Potentially too big.
Yeah, I think there's an argument for that being too big, but that's the thing with it as well, right? It's all optional, pretty much. Like, all of it is optional, apart from obviously like the few main bosses. So you could probably do it super quick if you're really good, and you didn't want to level up much.
Breath of the Wild style.
Yeah.
Probably not exactly the Breath of the Wild style. You're probably not going to be launching yourself on a tree directly into the castle.
No, probably not.
I mean, people have beaten it in like 5 minutes or something because it's
actually.
delicious to get to the boss, the end boss, like super quick and stuff already. But yeah, in terms of that, like the world is almost all optional. So if you didn't want to do stuff, you could just skip it all. But then leveling up in this game just seems super important because you just die instantly if you don't.
I feel like this is the FromSoft game where they probably have tapped into the thing that makes Breath of the Wild work, right? You know, there is that whole most of as you say, Breath of the Wild is almost entirely optional, really, most of it. But there's a drive somehow that they've instilled in that thing that you want to go do that stuff.
Yeah,
and it's a pretty hard thing to quantify. It's a pretty hard thing to put down in words what that thing is, but they nailed that with Zelda. And it's just like I think that can be the thing, right? That somehow drives people in Elden Ring, or perhaps any From game, right? That must be.
Well, this one's obviously different because it's the first open world one. The other was linear, basically.
Well, pathy, yeah.
But it's like this does what Zelda does to some extent, where it's like you're looking around and you see things, you know, like, oh, what's that? And,
right, yeah.
And that kind of makes you go do things because it's like, I can see that, I want to know what's over there.
What on earth is that? That looks weird.
Yeah, or you see like a I don't know, like a tower, and you're like, well, what the hell's that? And you go have a look at it.
What's going on in here?
Yeah, and stuff like that. So
it's another Lionel.
Which is what Zelda did really well, right? In Breath of the Wild, was the whole point was you see things, you're like, I want to go see what that is.
It's a weird looking structure. There must be a thing there.
Yeah, so it kind of takes that kind of design cue quite well, but there's a lot you can find that doesn't look interesting either, right? You'll just go along a mountain side or something, and there'll be a cave hidden along it somewhere, which takes you into a massive dungeon.
Right, yeah.
You probably wouldn't even find it most of the time unless you...
But that's okay too.
Yeah.
Like, it's like you need that blend. You need that blend. Yeah, I think there's something nice about having a game that size where it's like, well, okay, if you did like half of it and you could still beat it. For an average player, let's put it that way, if you can do half of the game and still beat it, then that's probably acceptable.
Yeah, you could definitely do that, I think. Depending on how good you are, because if you don't level up, then you are going to die in like one hit to most bosses. So,
and you're inadvertently sort of selling me on it because the bit of me really does.
Honestly, I'm not a Souls fan from my previous experiences, but I've enjoyed this game a lot. Because I'm terrible at it.
Because I'm kind of yearning for a game like that. Like I'm like. The more I think about it, because I've been like, obviously, us playing for Age of Calamity is maybe like Zelda's in my head in some way, and it's like Breath of the Wild is such a great game, but I don't necessarily want to play Breath of the Wild again. I want to play something that evokes that exploration thing. And I know Breath of the Wild 2 is probably not that. I mean, it's far enough away.
Or Phoenix Rising.
I mean, Phoenix Rising had that effect at first. And then you get to the point where you realise everything you find is going to fall in one of a few categories, and it becomes considerably less interesting once you've discovered that.
Yeah. Now, I will say, like, Elden Ring does do that a bit. Like, if you find a cave, you know exactly what the cave is going to be like. Right. Okay. The design of the cave is obviously different, and they have like a lot of different like unique things that you can do in caves. Like they will have their own like weird quirk about them. But you'll know that if you find a cave, the idea of the cave is you find the switch to open the boss room. That's what the caves are, basically. But they're all so different. You don't mind because the enemies are all different for the most part in them. Like the quirks for them are quite interesting. Like
sure, so they've managed to capture the shrine thing.
Yeah.
Which Phoenix definitely didn't.
Yeah, but there are things that do detract from that as well. Like like some of the bosses are repeated quite a lot. Like you do get repeat bosses a fair amount.
The number of guys, little short videos of people posting what looks to me like the same dude on horseback
Yeah.
Like they're just fighting, just having the same fight like in many different places on the map. And it's just like, oh, it's that dude on the horseback again.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the grunt enemies, I guess there are obviously loads of them all over the place, like repeated. But because
Dogs from the sky.
Because the game is so big, like there is actually a surprisingly large number of unique enemies in this game. Like I'm actually surprised because I've played quite a few games and. You see all the enemy types. There's like within not too long of the game, and there's only like 6 or 7 enemy types or something, right? In some games.
Yeah, Phoenix is like that. It's quite a small pool.
Exactly, but in this, there's
and arguably Zelda's like that as well. Really, it's quite a small pool.
Yeah, but in this, there's loads. There's tons of different enemy types. Like you won't get bored of going to new areas and stuff because there's always going to be different enemies and stuff.
That's neat. That is neat.
Yeah, and. But yeah, there's just so much in this game. It's crazy. You've got different dungeon types. Like you've got the main, like what I call the old school Dark Souls areas, which are like the huge dungeons, right? Which is like multiple checkpoints and multiple bosses. Yeah. And then you've got the caves, which are like very short versions of that. You've got the overworld, and there's things to do in there. We can find like towers and buildings that do stuff, and
spooky abandoned towns,
random bosses, just like unique bosses that you can find around the world, and stuff that's only triggered in certain situations, like things that only appear at night, or like the funniest one I found is a bit of a spoiler, but it's funny. There's like this area with giant like prawns or something, like giant like lobster things.
Giant enemy crabs.
Yeah, like giant lobsters. I don't know what the word is, but they're giant lobstery type things. And if you kill all of them in this area, then the random mimic appears out of them, and the mimic boss comes out of them. But it only happens at night. And like weird stuff like that you can come across.
So like someone wearing a prawn. Like...
yeah, he was mimicking a prawn. It's kind of interesting.
That's pretty funny.
But there's lots of weird stuff like that can happen.
I'm in a prawn suit. I'll take you down.
So although a lot of the elements are kind of repeated, like they're all done differently enough to make it interesting still.
You don't quite know when you're going to end up being mimicked, you know, like...
Well, like, as I say... Like,
here's the Lord of the Shellfish, and then here's the Lord of Dead Cows.
I just mean, like, you got the caves, you got the dungeons, they're all similar things that have come out throughout the game, but they all feel very different.
There's enough in each one.
Yeah. Like, there's the other repeating things like ruins, where you get, like, an area of ruins. And it's always the same, where you have, like, a staircase somewhere there that leads into a room with a treasure chest normally, or a boss or something. But they're all like that, but they're all so different.
Just got to find that staircase.
Yeah, but they're all done differently, so you don't mind that it's the same concept every time, you know what I mean?
Okay. It's a difficult line to walk, because I could say the same argument about Phoenix, and it didn't quite
Phoenix
work.
Doesn't do it
because I always knew,
yeah.
it's going to be a block, there's a bit of gold brick in the area. That means, right, there's going to be a thing to do here. Is it a block puzzle? Why, yes, it is. Do I have to put a heavy thing on a thing?
Yeah.
Yes.
But because it's all combat based, I suppose, and the enemies are always going to be different, it kind of makes it a bit more interesting, I suppose. But it just works. I don't know. I can't really explain it. It just works.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, you've obviously there's just an absolute shit ton of weapons. Like, I don't know how many weapons are in this game, but it feels like there's an absolute shit ton. So any kind of style of combat you want to do, you can probably do it in this game. You've obviously got magic, so you can get different ones and all your spells. There's hundreds of different spells. You've got swords, you've got axes, you've got spears, you've got whips. You got
whips, eh?
Yeah, you got
That's Castlevania.
Wolverine claws. Like,
okay, that sounds cool.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff. You can have literally just your fist with like a thing on it that you can punch things with. It's insane. Like, there's so many different weapon types in that. And obviously, depending on your what build you go with when you're leveling up, will depend what kind of weapon you want to go with. But yeah, it's insane. There's so many different weapons, and there's summons in this game, which is new, I think.
I think so. Yeah, other than summoning humans.
Yeah, so you can do that, but obviously now there's like an AI summon thing. I forget what they're called, ashes of something. So
I see a lot of people posting about the dogs.
Yeah, like the dogs. I use the dogs. Yeah, the wolves or whatever. But there's hundreds of those you can get as well. Because you should get a lot of them actually by fighting random dung beetles that you find throughout the level. Don't know why they're dung beetles, but
dung summons.
Yeah, they just...
Can I summon dung beetles, though?
I don't know. I haven't found one yet, but you might be able to.
Disappoint.
But yeah, it's like you can just be wandering around this world, and then you'll find like a random thing somewhere, and you'll get like a cool weapon out of it, or a shield or
I
something.
want to be able to roll a massive boulder onto the battlefield. That's what I want.
Yeah. So
Actually, no, I want something else to do that for me. Let me be precise.
So I haven't really got that far into it. I'm still like relatively early, I think.
But you said like what, 20, 30 hours?
35 hours or something. I'm not...
That's early. See, that's like sort of my patience limit for games these days. It's about 35 hours. Like, ish.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a lot of patience for games, but I've really enjoyed my time with it. Like, well, I suppose the bit I don't enjoy as much is the actual bosses, because they're hard as fuck. And you do end up repeating them a lot. I don't know, it's weird. Like, some of them are really easy, and then some of them are just super hard. Like, there's one that you find
do they telegraph, like, when they're going to be difficult in any way? Or,
no,
like, are you already in the fight by the time you can tell?
Yeah, you won't know until you do it, like, how hard it's going to be. But the thing with it as well is, like, one of the first bosses you'll come across in the game, most likely, unless you just somehow miss it, is stupidly hard. So, unless you know that it's going to be stupidly hard...
Did you miss the tutorial?
I did.
Right, yeah.
I did miss the tutorial.
Yeah. That's quite a common complaint.
I did miss it completely.
Apparently they patched that, so it's like a little bit easier to find it.
Yeah, because the tutorial, you have to jump off this ledge into a hole, basically. And I didn't do it because I was like, I'm going to die, so why would I do that?
Yeah. That's like Dark Souls trolling itself, because like there was, I think, one of the DLCs for Dark Souls 1, the way to get into the DLC was just to jump down a random hole somewhere on the map.
Even know where it was. Right? Yeah.
Jesus.
So yeah, I completely missed the tutorial, and I found it later on. I came back to it later.
Oh, that's so weird.
Yeah. But yeah, it's great. I really like it. I mean, it's hard, and I don't like the controls that much, but I can sort of...
Does it feel Lord of the Ringsy enough? Because it's like
I wouldn't say.
No, it's not Lord. It's the Game of Thrones guy, isn't it? That was involved in the.
This is Oh, was it him? Yeah, it was him, wasn't it?
Yeah, who was sort of involved in the world building and the style of it, and.
Yeah, I don't think he didn't have all that much input, I don't think. He just kind of created the world idea, I guess.
Oh, I see.
And then developed all this... He developed a world, and then destroyed the world, and this is the game set after the world was destroyed, kind of thing.
Oh, weird. So he wrote the backstory,
kind of.
And they were like, well, let's blow all that up and we'll make our game.
Yeah, they like fucked it up, and this is like, you're playing in the fucked up version of that.
Weird.
Something like that, anyway.
Maybe they were like, well, yeah, okay.
Because it wouldn't have worked otherwise, I don't think.
Maybe From couldn't make the game he was...
Well, it's not the game, it's just the world probably wouldn't have worked if it was an actual world.
Living world.
Yeah, because everything has to be an enemy in this game, pretty much. Like, everywhere is enemies.
Well, I don't think From have ever made something that was like an actual world, a friendly place.
Yeah, so it's a really cool game. I really like it. Yeah, as I say, the bosses can be frustrating at times, but they're all doable. You just have to have the patience. Yeah.
Do any of them feel unbalanced, or like they have like just like nonsense hit zones or anything like that? Because like that's the risk, of like when you throw in a load of bosses, that there's one that just feels like, you know, I'm pulling that from recent experiences with Tunic, because there's one boss in particular that I just think was like nonsense in terms of its hit zones.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple near the start that I really could not get on with. One in particular I took hours trying to beat. I came back to it later when I'd leveled up a bit and it was a bit easier, but it's still...
Horizon Zero Dawn in spots. I think some of the enemies in that like just had awful hit zones.
See, I don't think it's so much the hit zones. Some of them are like, it's hard to tell like
that it's an attack.
Range. The range. Okay. So like this one enemy I got stuck on, he has like a sword swipe thing, but I'm pretty sure the hitbox is longer than the sword because it has like a little bit of a...
like a swoosh effect that goes longer than the sword, because that's quite common. Yeah,
so I think that had something like that, and I wasn't really... And I was like getting hit by it, and I was like, oh, that's so annoying because it doesn't look like it's going to hit.
I hate that. That was one of my most hated things, like when the visible zone doesn't seem to match with the where you get hit thing, and it's like, that was...
Yeah, the other issue I've had with the bosses is actually trying to find opportunities to actually hit them.
Right.
Because a lot of them are just aggro, you know, just constantly attacking you. It's really hard to actually find a moment where you can actually get a hit in. And that's kind of frustrating because it's like, because it's random, obviously. Sometimes they'll give you an opportunity at times, then other times you just won't get an opportunity and you're just waiting for ages to try and do anything. And it just gets really frustrating like that sometimes.
Yeah, you think they'd like, I don't know how their systems work for like AI and stuff. You think they'd like wear down their own stamina bars in some way, so then you'd like so then you could actually see potentially what was going on. It's like, well, they're doing a lot of stuff right now. They're going to tire out.
Yeah,
and it's like I would if I was all up in his ass.
Yeah. The other thing that really annoys me is the input reading. So, like when you're trying to heal, for example. On certain bosses, you can almost guarantee you're going to get hit by the same move every time the second you try and heal.
Oh, no.
Like, every time you're like, all right, I'm going to get hit here, but I need to heal, like, so I don't have a choice.
Fighting game AI cheating.
Yeah, so it's hard. Like, you can obviously get in situations where they don't do it, but you know, if you're trying to, if they've just stopped attacking or something and you want to just run away and heal, you know, as soon as you try and heal, they'll do the exact same move every single time.
That will come get you.
Yeah. So that's kind of annoying.
That is quite annoying.
Like there's one I got stuck on for ages. He has this move where he like does this massive like lunge, like a sword poke, I guess. But the range is huge. So if you try and heal from anywhere, he'll basically hit you no matter what, because it's just you can't get away from it.
The wind up's too short. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super. Well, because your heal animation is quite long anyway. There's just nothing you can do. But there are ways around that. You just have to time when you heal, but it's not always easy. But yeah, so that's kind of frustrating. I think the bosses are the bits that I enjoy the least, which is kind of weird because they're like...
Because it's kind of supposed to be the draw.
Yeah. Some of them are good, some of them are not. But it is fun trying to figure out initially how to beat them. But then once you've tried to do it 20, 30 times, it loses its charm.
Yeah, I can feel that. Absolutely. Because that was one of my main... worries with me about playing a Dark Souls game, like having watched Zach, just doing that first bit basically, like, and it's like it's not just doing the boss; it's the fact you've got to do the approach to the boss.
Yes, every
again.
time. Yeah, that can be in Elden Ring. It's a lot easier because most of the time, if you're at a boss, you'll respawn right outside the boss. So,
okay, cool.
But
they don't put you back to a bonfire, or is there like just tends to be a bonfire type thing right there?
They have this other thing as well as bonfires. They're called, I don't know what they're called, but they're like little statues, so you can spawn at those as well as bonfires.
Okay.
And they're often placed like right outside bosses or
smart
or whatever. So it's not as frustrating for that. There are areas where you do have to do that, like the big dungeons,
right?
Because they're like more like the old school Dark Souls. Yeah.
Because that looked like that would be hella frustrating.
But sometimes you do have to do that. But most of the time you can get away with not having to do that. It's only if you die in like the overworld or getting to places where that's an issue. But yeah, it's good fun. It's surprisingly fun. I'm enjoying it a lot. It's a good game.
Enjoy the next 170 hours.
That's the thing. I don't know how much longer I can put up with it. But... Sure,
Yes.
I get bored of it eventually.
Depends how much of that intrigue factor you could take.
Yeah.
Like what on earth could happen next?
I mean, I haven't played it for a couple of weeks, but that's just because I've not played anything for a couple of weeks, so I've just not had the opportunity. Because I feel like you need to have a good amount of time for a session of it.
Especially.
Yeah.
So I mean, partially because you just need to travel between save points, essentially, but also because you like want to not forget what the hell how to play it, essentially.
Yeah, so I do feel like if you want to play, you need to have a good hour or two, probably more like 2 at least in a session.
Yeah.
So it's not something you can just pick up and play for a bit and then leave.
Yeah. Which tends to be my favourite type of game I gravitate towards these days, like ones that even lengthy games, but at least as long as I know I can put I can bail out of it at a moment's notice kind of thing. I don't have to get in the zone to play particularly.
Well, I mean, you kind of can, but I like to spend a lot of time.
It's a long session.
Just things take time in this game. It's not like you can just jump in and do a quick thing and then leave. There's like things take time in this game.
Admittedly, almost every game has like the occasional, even those that are a bit jump in, jump out, tend to have a moment where it's just like, well, I'm locked into this for a while.
Well,
I feel like Yakuza, for instance, is fairly jump in, jump out. but like
You get locked into long
it's occasionally,
sections
yeah, it's
sometimes.
like, oh, I'm in a 40-minute cutscene.
yeah. I suppose the other things to talk about, like the story, like I have no idea what the hell's going on in the story. The story is just
That sounds standard for
Yeah.
a From game, doesn't it?
it's just like there is a story, but what the hell it is, I have no idea.
Yeah.
There's fingers. I know that much.
Salad fingers.
Yeah. You have the lady of the fingers and things like that. It's kind of weird.
That sounds creepy as fuck.
Yeah. It is very cool. Like the atmosphere building and stuff in that game is second to none, I think. Like the way they do their sort of world building and stuff is crazy good. Like you do feel really immersed in it. And even though there's not a lot being told to you or a lot of things happening around you, like just the way you explore around and then find little nuggets of like an NPC will be there and it will just tell you a little bit of something, you know.
A nugget finger.
Yeah. It's really quite well done. And I suppose if you really wanted to, you could delve into the lore side of it pretty heavily.
People will.
Oh, no doubt, yeah. Like you can read all the lore on every single item that you pick up and all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of little details here and there that you can dive into if you really want to. But for me, I'm not really that bothered about it, and trying to follow what the hell's going on is...
No, that's what I mean. I'm sure there'll come a point, like, I don't know. There's a point in a lot of games where, like, I think you start like reading everything at the start of the game, and afterwards, you're just like, oh, that's another book.
Yeah,
that's another thing that's not going to help me do my thing.
Yeah, fortunately, there isn't a lot of that kind of stuff in there, unless you read all the items and the lore on things that you kill and things like that. But
I mean, yeah, it depends whether they put the hook on to be like, oh, you could find a clue to some other secret or something.
yeah, there are things like that as well.
text,
Like there's NPC quest lines that you can do. But I suppose that's the other thing that some people might get put off is it doesn't tell you where anything is ever. So if someone tells you that you've got to do something, like whether you can actually find it or not is...
recover for me the triangles of Zintar.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, where do I do that, mate? Nobody knows.
Yeah. I mean, some of them do give you specific locations. Like, there's actually one that I found where it actually did put, like, a marker on the map of where it is.
What?
Yeah, but most of the time it's just like, they'll say, oh, my assistant has gone missing. And I'm like, oh, if you find them, let me know. And it's like, you haven't...
Right.
They could be bloody anywhere in this ginormous world, you know what I mean?
That'll just add to my list.
Yeah. So, and you don't have, like, a quest log or anything.
Oh, wait,
so,
what? Really?
Yeah, there's no quest log.
So, like, you start
that.
a quest saying, I'm going to find this dude, but you don't know where it doesn't even log that
No, it
you're
doesn't log
supposed to be.
anything, yeah. There's no, like, conversation logs or anything.
What?
That is kind of how it worked in the old Dark Souls, but obviously those games weren't open world, so it wasn't nearly as bad.
Yeah.
You talked to an NPC once and they'd say something that you probably needed to pay attention to, and then that doesn't add to a quest log anyway, but then if you've done the thing, you go back and talk to them later, quest complete, and you get a thing. So it's
Exactly.
like,
It's
in an
similar,
open
right?
world, it's a bit more extreme.
That seems very old school
It's very
RPG
old school,
to
yeah.
me, right? Like you know, because that I'm sure in like the Final Fantasies, you'd like stumble upon something, you'd effectively be starting a quest line, but you wouldn't know it, right? And then you'd stumble on something later and be like, oh, that's following on from that guy, right? Okay, cool.
Yeah, so there's a lot of that where you find random things that have sort of quests, but
I'm
you
sure I
don't...
just forget them all.
Yeah, oh, yeah, definitely, 100%. I haven't played it for 2 weeks, so I have no clue what any things I'd found before that. Now, you know.
Where do I take this thing I found? I'm sure someone said something about this thing I found, but I don't know who or where.
Yeah, and because it's so big, it could literally be 30 hours before you
Find the dude.
find the thing or remember that. Oh yeah, this guy wanted this that I've just got from killing a boss 30 hours later or something.
But
you know
who
what I
on
mean?
earth was that?
Yeah, exactly.
Do I need to go retrace all of my steps and talk to everyone on the way?
Yeah, but at least this game has a map, which the other ones don't, obviously. So at least there is a map, so you can see roughly where things are, which is good.
You might have a vague memory, I suppose,
ori-
triggered by
yeah.
looking at the map.
Originally, it didn't have NPCs on there, I think, but now they've added NPC markers. Yeah, so you can at least see where people are now, whereas before you couldn't. So that's helpful, at least. So if you know who it is you need to see, and you found them already, you can at least find them on the map now, which is nice. Doesn't mean you'll have what they need, or...
No. Okay. You just know where people with certain name, or you just know where a dude is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like if you've met them and talked to them, they'll be on the map, which is nice. But the other thing is people move, so they might not be there next.
damn
It
it.
might not actually be there.
All right, let's layers upon layers of frustration here.
Yeah, it's very old school. Very old school. But it's I don't know, I can't really explain it. Like, it's quite addictive because it is satisfying. Because every fight is challenging, right? Like, even basic enemies can be challenging. Like 2 or 3 hits and you'll die. So
Right, yeah.
it is a very satisfying and rewarding game in that sense. And when you do finally beat that boss you've been stuck on for hours, you're like, yes!
Yeah. Definitely know that feeling.
Or sometimes you're just like, oh, thank God for that, finally.
I think most of the time that's how I come out of things. So it's like, oh, thank heavens for that.
But sometimes you beat your boss first try, and you're like, hell yeah, I've destroyed that guy. Yeah, it's quite interesting. Some of the bosses have like weird, like unique ways that you have to beat them, and so you have to kind of figure that out as well sometimes, which is kind of fun. And there's certain enemies that have protections and whatnot that you have to figure out.
Sure.
All the usual stuff in RPGs, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's just done in a really, really well done way, I feel. It's quite interesting as well. Sometimes, like, early on, you'll fight certain bosses, and then later on, you'll find it's just a normal enemy later.
They're just standard. Yeah.
They're really strong normal enemy, but they're still just like a normal enemy now.
That's quite a common thing as well, isn't it? A lot of games do that. Like,
Yeah.
oh, what, you thought this was tough? Nah.
Yeah, exactly. So things that are like bosses early on become just like standard enemies eventually.
You watched us play Hyrule Warriors earlier, and we fought like the bog standard Lionel, which is like presented as a boss, and it's like, nah, you'll be fighting a billion of those later on, and much tougher variants.
Yeah, but in that game, that you only fight bosses basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Normal enemies basically might as well not exist.
Yeah.
They're there to charge your
Just
special
fodder.
meter.
Yeah.
But even like big bokoblins and standard moblins go away after a while because they're just like they're not a thing. They all get tougher.
Yeah, it is good. I'm enjoying it.
Good.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, it's quite funny because like I've died so many times, like from falling off or something, and I'm like, oh,
That's also Dark Souls classic.
yeah, like he
Endless
spent all his time like getting to this place, and then he just accidentally rolled off a bridge, and you're like, well, there goes all my souls.
I'm never getting those
And I have
back.
to try and get back there again and try and get them. So that happens quite a bit as well. You'll just randomly die to stuff like that.
No.
Or like you'll find something and you'll get ambushed by like 15 enemies, and you're just like, well, I'm dead.
Yeah. I don't know.
They do that quite a bit as well, where they like hide enemies in the most trolly places. Like you'll walk into a room and then 2 enemies will drop from the ceiling behind you or something.
I've seen a clip where like 5 dogs just appear in them from the sky at one point. This guy's just casually walking along, and these 5 dogs just suddenly turn up next to him.
Yeah.
just like wee. It's like what just happened there?
Yeah, there's some weird stuff like that. But it is fun just exploring because you never know what the hell's going to be around the corner in that game. Like, you just always find different stuff, and it's such a big game. It's crazy. I don't honestly understand why they made it that big. Because I don't think many people are going to finish that game.
Yeah, you're probably right. I wonder what the completion rate from games is anyway, like in general.
Well, I think like in the older games, it's probably quite high because people are crazy about those games, right? The people that play those games are crazy. They're obsessive about them, pretty much.
It's more like when you go back to talking about like achievement percentage, it's going to be like 0 or 100. You're going to half complete one of those games. If you get into it, you're going to finish it.
Yeah, maybe. I feel like Elden Ring is a bit...
beating it and platinuming.
Well, I mean, full
seems
achievements
like-
is a different thing.
Yeah.
I feel like Elden Ring's a bit different as well because it seems like it's way more popular than any of the other previous games have ever been.
It does seem that way.
Like, it's the best-selling game of the year, which is kind of crazy for a game like that, in my opinion.
It does seem that way.
So there seems to be a hell of a lot of more people playing this game than any of the previous ones. So I imagine there's going to be a lot of people who don't get very far because it is very hard. But saying that, it is easier in some ways as well because you can like just farm in this game because it's open world. Obviously, you can just
Oh, I see. So you can like just soul
Grind
farm.
and level up.
Yeah. I mean, you could do that in the others, but you'd be
can,
playing
but
the
it's
It's
same.
real tedious.
Yeah.
yeah, it's more fun in this game because you can just like, oh, I can't do that. I'll
What-
go somewhere else.
Yeah, whilst you're exploring, you'll power up.
Yeah. I'll go see what's going on over here instead, because I can't, like, there was a boss right near the start that I couldn't do, so I was like, all right, I'll just go do other things, and then I came back to it like 10 hours later and beat it. So you're not stuck in this game as much as you probably were in other Souls games, which is nice as well. So you can make it as easy as you want, really, if you just
have to put the damn time in.
You want to spend the time farming, yeah. But even then, there's, some of the later bosses are apparently just stupid hard, so I can't imagine even farming is going to help that much.
Elden Ring, then.
Yep.
Yeah, it's good. I like it. Surprisingly enjoyable.
Surprisingly enjoyable.
Because I don't really like hard games. I'm not really much of a fan of hard games.
I saw you playing Infernax. Isn't that hard?
I punish myself. I played that. I played Cyber something as well. The other kind of old school.
Cyber something.
It was another like old school Castlevania style game.
Okay, yeah, pretty recent. Yeah, and I remember seeing that listed.
I played through that. That was insanely hard as well. Do not recommend.
I think you're lying to yourself. I think you love it secretly.
I don't know why I do it, because I never enjoy it. I'm just
You're a masochist, that's what it is.
I mean, Infernax was more difficult at the start and then got easier in my opinion, so that one wasn't quite so bad, but yeah, that Cyber, whatever it was called, was just it's a nightmare.
Shadow.
Yeah, something like that. I do not recommend. The end of that game is ridiculous.
Hey, I've got a segue now. You've given me a segue.
The segue to what? We almost have time.
Oh, we're way out of time. We're way over. Cyberpunk.
Oh, you've played it?
I've started playing it.
I really love that game.
You're definitely going to have to talk about that a lot more on the next one.
Yeah, because I'm only a couple hours in. So
I 100%ed it pretty much. I did everything.
Really?
Well, what I could, apart from the missions that glitched, and I can't do them, so I can't get 100% achievements because the missions are glitched, so I can't do them.
I'm having a real hard time getting into it. I know I'm only 2 and a bit, maybe 3 hours in, but I'm struggling with it at the moment. Like, I don't really like how it feels. I don't really like how the gunplay works. Not that I've had to do that much, but the start is so slow and so dry.
It's very slow.
It's like there's nothing. I haven't found a hook yet, if you know what I mean. There is nothing there in the game to just say, this is what you're doing. This is your drive. This is what you're like. It's meandering through a quite nice looking at times, quite weird looking at other times environment. And it's with a very complicated menu system that's already asked me to do things in the menu that I don't understand how to do. And I'm missing something. I feel like I'm missing something. It's like it's not hooking me yet. And I want, like, Dan in the past has sort of mentioned that, like, his big problem with looking at Cyberpunk, that, like, theoretically it should push the buttons that Dan likes from a game as well, right? It's like the sort of Deus Ex-y style progressions and
I don't think it really goes that deep though.
No, I'm not sure it does either, but it, like, presents itself like it's going to. Like, that's sort of part of the problem. Like, it's got this, like, incredibly complicated looking set of skill trees.
Yeah, most of it's kind of pointless though.
and crazy inventory system about your cyberware and things like that. Things that the game has not taught me about yet, particularly. And but it's all there, and so I'm very confused. And then I did a mission that said, "Oh, you need to read this shard," and it's like, okay, did I find that shard? I don't know. And then I couldn't find where in the interface the damn thing was to read. The shards are basically like text things you find in there. And it's like I couldn't. And so the mission asked me to read this bit of text, and I'm like, how do I even get to that menu? And it was buried away behind a couple of steps. It's like, or more to the point, it wasn't buried, and that was kind of the problem. So, like, you go into the menus and you get, like, the standard, like, you can bumper around these sections, and one of the sections is journal, and that section, when you bumper to it, shows you your quest logs, effectively. What you actually need to do is come back out one level to the bit where it shows you all of those 5 sections at once, and you can mouse over them, and when you mouse over them, or controller cursor over them, it shows you a list of other things in that section. And for some reason, the shard list under journal is in that section, but you can only get to it from that, like, top menu. You can't then go into journal and then swap it to this other state. Like you can in every other one of these menus, it seems. It's like every other one of these menus have a way to traverse within them to get to the other bits of them. This one, like, it just seemed really like...
I don't remember.
it was just
menus at all.
yeah, I don't know. It just struck me as like, oh, you did not think that through. It's like, or the game never told me how to get to that bit of the and it's, I don't know. I'm finding it a bit overwhelming. I think in some levels, it's like it feels like there's systems there, and I'm 3 hours in, and I still have no idea what any of them really are. It's like it's not hand holding, which is good in a way. But I
think it does that intentionally because you don't really need to know any of that stuff.
Maybe.
Yet. Probably.
Maybe, but it's already putting me into fights that I feel like I'm playing on normal difficulty as well, and it's already putting me into, or I've found a couple of scenarios where it's like, this is quite tough. Like, these guys are draining my health in like 1 or 2 hits, and it's, am I supposed to be here? There was no indication that I shouldn't be here. Yeah, I don't know. I'm finding, as I say, I'm waiting for that hook. I'm waiting for that. I'm going to give it a chance, obviously, because it's like, it seems too slow at the moment. It's like it takes you an hour or two to get to where it puts Act 1 on screen.
Yeah, it's
and it's like
quite long overall. I think I can't remember how long it was, but
oh yeah, I'm sure it's massive, but because it's a CD Projekt game, but CD Projekt Red. But like it's I don't know. I'm missing the hook.
Yeah, see, I really like the story in that game. I think the story is quite good, but a lot of the side content isn't very good. In my opinion, like it's kind of bland.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, my impressions of it is it's not the best game ever by any stretch. It's kind of an average game, really, but I still really enjoyed it. But then I like a lot of bad games, so...
Ringing endorsement.
You should never really trust what I say on things because I enjoy a lot of crap, so...
Oh, sure, we all do. We all enjoy things that are a little outside... mainstream goodness. It's like, I as much as I love games like Jet Set Radio and stuff, even I have a hard time of saying they're objectively good games. I just love them. And you can't always say that about everything. And this, I'm having a hard time seeing that in any, like, it's just the dryness. I want maybe a bit more of a joke or a bit more of a... I've already had funny things happen. I've already had weird glitches, like where I've turned my back and turned around and then something is different. Or like I've parked my car up in front of one place, turned my back, and all of a sudden someone was screaming hysterically, and I turn around and there's a different car, not mine, just upside down on the road behind me, and I'm like, what just happened? And it's like, that stuff's great. I like, actually never patch that out. I find it fantastic. And there are a few bugs, like I've noticed already, in that, like, even though they say, I think CD Projekt Red have said, it's like, we're kind of done with like patching the game, now we want to do more content, and I'm like, maybe spend a bit more time, because I like certain bugs and like certain animations getting stuck, even like with just me switching weapons, like it hasn't worked quite right. Like I'll lift a gun up, but it will just be my hands, and then it'll eventually load the gun model in, and it's like, of all the things you should probably have loaded, my loadout should probably be one of them. Like, there's some odd decisions I think they've made on the technical side, and also there are moments where the game looks pretty great, and there are other moments where like certain things about the game look really weird in a sort of unquantifiable, like the lighting is just wrong. Like it doesn't seem to do, like there's plenty of scenes at the start of the game where you're on the inside of a car that looks pretty good at night, and during the day the lighting seems totally oddly weird and glowy. Like people's heads seem to have a glow about them, like they've got an incredibly poorly positioned hero light or something on them, which I know is like a presentation thing, but it just looks like that light is far too bright half the time, so bits of their face are like lit up, and it's like, that seems out of place. There was one guy who didn't have a dark mouth, and that, you know what I mean, it didn't get darker inside his mouth cavity, so like his tongue and his teeth were super bright. And there's a sort of plasticine look to things in places that like makes me feel like, oh, this is early PS4 like graphics rendering techniques. And then there are other bits that look like at night. I think the game looks like, which, as you might expect, Night City. Like I think it looks pretty great. Like I think the bar you start in,
looks good,
really good looking bit of scenery. There's an awful lot of flavor text flying around as well, like the world building, and like in terms of like people just having a hard time. No one seems to be having a good time in this city. Like the flavor text around, like, and now the fact that they're just casually doing something quite a lot of the time, that seems pretty well done. Like I said, early days. I'm not going to make a judgment at this point, but it's a tough first impression. That's what I'll say. So we'll see where it goes.
Who did you choose?
I'm a street kid.
Okay, I think I went with Nomad.
Okay.
So it starts differently anyway, doesn't
I mean,
it?
yeah, I started in a bar and had to do a job that went bad, and that was how I met Jackie. And there's been a couple of people, you get a couple of like dialogue choices here and there that are like, this is a street kid choice, and it's like, well, I'm going to pick that because it's my thing. Let's see where this goes.
Yeah, because I picked Nomad, and you start in the Wasteland.
Yeah, which might have been a more interesting
Yeah, I kind of
start.
liked that because it's like
You get a city reveal, I suppose.
yeah, it kind of introduces you to Night City in that kind of way because you start outside and then you sort of go into it.
That might have been a slightly slicker way of doing it.
So that's probably why I didn't notice it quite so much on my playthrough, that it was a bit jarring because it was like I didn't start in that area anyway. I started outside of it all.
Right, and you had to get so maybe I've skipped, like maybe it feels like I've skipped a bit or something. I don't know. I mean, I haven't, but like that's just how that's played out. Yeah, I'll stick with it. I mean, I've waited long enough, and like this is running on the post next gen
I
patches.
played the launch version, so
Yeah.
And I didn't really experience that many bugs. There was that one game breaking bug that I had on one of the levels, which was quite amusing with the elevator.
Oh yeah, I've seen that video.
Yeah.
It's just some dude just like running away and then respawning and then running away and then respawning. I did have one bad guy that when he noticed me ran away from me instead of towards me. He was one of those like cyber psychos or something, and he was supposed to like, aggro on me, and he sort of did for a bit, and then sort of got right up in my face and then just ran away, just booked it, and I'm like, no, come back here! I need to incapacitate you. Which I found pretty funny. It's just like, what are you doing? Well, I kind of don't mind moments like that. It's like, I'm pretty sure you weren't supposed to do that, but I'm okay with it. I'm in.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think people were very harsh on it, honestly. Like, there was a lot of problems, but I don't think it was necessarily as bad as people made it out.
Maybe a bit dunked on.
Well, apart from the systems where it almost didn't work. Like if you are able to play the game, it's probably fine.
Yeah, but it's because a lot of people like.
I suppose if you went in on a Series X, which is probably a bit different than people that went in with a bone.
Did I have a Series X at the time? But it would have been the
Yeah, I remember you playing it on.
It would have been the thingy version though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would have been the pre-next gen patch, but I think you played it on X.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it did. It was better on the X because it had 60 FPS, for example.
Yeah, and they'd also done some sort of awareness thing, like a lot of those transitional games did. Like it knew it was running on Series X, and so made a couple of tweaks.
Yeah, but a lot of the bugs weren't related necessarily to the performance.
No. That's not. Yeah.
But I didn't really see that many bugs
the outstanding
overall.
like base PS4 and X-Bone thing where the game just looks like
exactly.
potato
That's
mode.
just not going to work.
No.
So my experience was fairly clear for bugs, really.
I mean, I have in terms of the visual presentation, I'm playing it on performance mode. I want that frame rate.
I did as well. I don't think it had a performance mode at the time.
No, it just did. It just did what it ran in like 1x mode, just with extra frame rate, I think, on Series X at launch. But like, yeah, you have the choice between performance and a ray tracing mode now, and I've tried it on both. I haven't noticed a single ray being traced, if I'm honest. Like every time I've seen a reflection, it's been like, that's screen space, and blurred to all hell. That's not a ray. I think it's using it primarily for some of the lighting and some of the shadow work.
Shadows, yeah.
But the improvement only seems marginal, and you get what feels like a more than 50% frame drop. Like it doesn't feel like it's hitting 30 in that mode. I mean, it barely hits 60, honestly, in performance mode half the time. So yeah, I'll definitely say play it on performance mode, which is how it starts by default, in fairness, rather than stick it in ray tracing mode, because it's not. It didn't solve the guy's mouth problem. I paused the game and thought, is this one of those lighting things that it's turned off? But like, yeah, I put ray tracing mode on, and that guy's teeth were super bright still. I don't think he had cyber teeth. Cyberpunk. I'll stick with it. Early days. Can't make a decent judgment. I finished Tunic. That was the other thing I really wanted to talk about, but I won't talk about it because it's problematic to talk about, because it's one of those. I do feel like its end game puzzles basically relied on a single mechanic kind of thing. Like it's like the it's one of those two halves games. What the first half is a slightly mysterious Zelda-y thing where there's a few puzzles you need the manual to solve, but then there's a whole second half of that game where you go into like full-on puzzle solving mode, and there's things in the world to discover. I did pretty much everything that game has to offer, aside from 2 secrets that you don't need to do. Technically, they give you achievements, but you don't need to do them to even get the 100% ending. I looked them both up, so I'm going to put that out there. I cheated a bit, which you really shouldn't do on this one. But one of them I would never have got. It was so complex and would have required you to decipher the language used in the manual, which, for the record, is not as easy as it is in other games that have done this. They've done a slightly more complicated way of what that language is. So I would have never have deciphered what that was. I would have never have understood the clue that would then lead to. And then the clue itself is cryptic, and I didn't figure out what it was even when I knew what the damn clue was in English. Never would have got it. I don't feel bad about that one. The other one I probably should have got, but they were misleading clues in the manual, and I kind of knew what the pattern was, but applied the wrong logic to that particular pattern in that particular case, and I should have spotted a thing that had been bothering me most of the game, because I'd spotted the manual has these little notes drawn in by someone who played it before, and you can't solve the game without these notes that have been drawn into the manual. And there's like one point where someone's done a little graphic of on one of the maps, and it's like, it's got to be to do with that. It's got to be to do with that. Totally wasn't anything to do with that. Mm-hmm. There was nothing to do with that particular particular doodle in the end. It was so, and I got totally misled by that. So it's like, I feel I probably should have. That one's on me. That one's on me. I could have solved that one had I not got the wrong end of the stick completely, and just, I don't know about, like, when you're trying to solve puzzles like that and you've got that idea in your head, it's really hard to get out of it sometimes, to be like, it can't be anything to do with this, and just try a different tack completely. And it's that's where I went wrong. But I found that side of the game really fascinating at spots. It was super satisfying solving one of the hardest puzzles in the game, or one of the most interesting, or longest puzzles, probably not the hardest, but one of the longest puzzles. And you figure that out and you're like, hell yeah! And it plays a nice little jingle specifically for that one that's different from every other jingle in the game. And you're like, yeah, I did it. And you need to do that one in order to get the 100% ending. And that's real satisfying. I would say that the ending itself is kind of naff. Like, it's not quite as dramatic or as inventive as it perhaps was in Fez and games of that ilk. It's like, it just sort of ends.
The ending of Fez wasn't really an ending of anything. It was just like a random drug trip. And then the game just stopped.
But that in itself is interesting, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You're just like, what on earth am I watching right now? but I don't care. Like, I earned it. Yeah, I think Tunic is real cool. We were talking about things like its input system. It's like, yeah, it's an animation limited combat system, like just for that. Like, I've talked about that before, where it's like when you're attacking, you can't start something else until your attack is finished. It doesn't do any control buffering, so you can
mash a bit.
Yeah, if you've queued up 2 sword swings, you can be like, oh god, no, I want to dodge, and it will get out of it when your first swing finishes. It'll override, I guess. But you can do a bit of buffering on that front, which can occasionally screw you over. But it's not that bad. Most of the boss fights are tough, but enjoyable. There's that one that I really thought was nonsense. The last boss is entirely skippable, I learnt.
Wow.
Spoilers. I didn't have to do it. The way I finished the game, I didn't have to do it, and I now can't do it, annoyingly, without replaying the whole game. Be aware of that. I totally missed it.
Oh no!
Like well, you have to do it at one point in the game. It makes you do it, but you can't win it, kind of thing.
Right? Yeah.
Except you probably could, thinking about it, and you could probably end the game real early.
There's a few games that do that, though, isn't there?
Yeah.
Like Castlevania tends to do that, where you start off fighting Dracula or something.
Yeah, and it's not supposed to be a fight you can win, but I reckon you could. I reckon you could if you were good. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fantastic game. It's definitely worth your time. Like, I would recommend going for the 100%, but don't don't do it the first time through like I did. Just go for a quick finish the first time and then go for the full completion, because you miss an achievement. It's just got some really clever little meta tricks here and there as well, like some things that play on the game system, and you're like, why is this page even in the manual? Like, that doesn't tell me anything. Oh no, it does. It has a few moments like that where it's just like that. There's this page has a point. I don't think there's any page in the manual that actually doesn't have a subtle point to it, and it's like that's really smart. It's a very cleverly made thing. I think that's all I can really say on it without going too spoilery.
Does sound cool, but I'm not sure I want to invest the time in that just now.
Oh, it's worth it. It is worth it, but yeah, you've got to be in the right mind space for it. I mean,
how long did it take, do you think?
Ooh, I've probably put at least 20 into it, but I'd say most of that was because I was doing the second, maybe 20 to 30, something like that. But I would say most of that time was because I was doing the second half.
Right.
I was doing the puzzly stuff, which just took time. I had to get a notepad out, it's that kind of thing. I had to draw stuff to solve some of the problems. It's cool. It's very cool. And I'm also playing Piku Niku, but I won't talk about it now.
Oh, I love that game. That game is awesome.
It's so funny. It's so weird.
Yeah, that's a cool game. I like that one.
I don't think I'm that far into that either. But
it's not very long, though.
Okay. I've started a resistance, that kind of stuff. I've blown up some stuff.
Yeah, it's a fun game. I like that one.
It's funny right from the start. It's pretty great. That's all I'll say on that. I'll talk more about that another time, because we are way over time.
Yeah. Yep. I'll just mention other games I've played. I'm not going to talk about them, obviously, but if you want me back sometime to talk about them.
Here's a preview.
Yeah. So I played Shadow Warrior 3 recently.
Ooh, I didn't realise that had even actually managed to come out yet.
Well, I bought it for you.
I know, but I didn't realise it was out yet. You bought it for me. It was pre-ordered.
No, it was out when I bought it for you.
Was it?
Yeah.
Well, I'll play that soon then.
Yeah, it literally just came out the day or two before.
Son of a bitch. All right, I'll get to that.
Yeah. So I played through that. I enjoyed it. I won't say much more than that for now. Death's Door I've played through recently.
Oh, yeah, that looks good.
That was a good game. Archvale I've played through.
Archvale? What's that?
It's like a bullet hell kind of road. I don't know how you describe it. But it's like a little RPG kind of bullet hell game.
Okay. Not
like
heard
a
that one
twin
at all.
stick, I think. It's kind of interesting. It was all right. Not great, but it was all right.
Not great, all right.
Yeah. Yeah. Valorant, obviously, but that never changes, apart from new characters.
Changes more than Halo does.
Yeah, that's for sure. I haven't touched Halo since we last played it.
Not for a long time.
I do enjoy it, but there's just not enough maps for me.
Yep, it needs more content.
Yeah.
I think 343 know it as well. They're just struggling.
Well, they put out a message, didn't they, saying we know everyone's lost their patience by this point.
Yeah. And they were saying, like, they delayed the start of the next season again or something because of some sort of health problem at 343. Whether that means everyone's crunching and they've
probably.
And they've just caused...
I don't understand, though, because they've got so many employees. How can they not just put out some basic content?
I think I think there's a different discipline for working in like live services, right? And 343 haven't necessarily been that involved in the sort of modern update cycle, I suppose, of games like that. Like they're not. They've had the ability to kind of work at their own pace in previous games. I mean, they've never really rattled out updates for any of the previous Halo games, right? Like
no.
Even back in the Halo 2 days, they didn't rattle out those map packs particularly fast. They were a long time coming. I can't even remember really what updates they did to Halo 5, like and things like
I'm
that.
not sure.
I'm not sure there were many. So yeah, I think it's out of their wheelhouse. I think is why it's taking so long. They're having a hard time adjusting to the rapid pace or the ravenous.
Which is a massive shame, because I think that game's going to die off quick if they don't.
Oh, I really hope it doesn't.
If they don't do something soon, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do think Forge mode will be the kicker.
Well, that rumored BR mode might be interesting as well.
Oh, maybe, but like, oh yeah, especially if that's on the open world, and that could be weird. But no, like I'm I'm hoping the Forge mode, like, because normally what that does is that encourages a whole load of like interesting map designs, and like the previous, like from Reach and stuff, they would actually put the Forge ones into main rotation.
That's what I liked about Reach, was the Forge maps were actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
And what I like about them as well is they were super simple a lot of the time, which made them good.
Easy to read, not because they were made out of chunky blocks half the time.
Which,
like they were...
but now Forge is way more than that, so I imagine they're not going to be that simple anymore, unfortunately.
Maybe. We'll probably get a few.
But yeah. I've also played the F1 2021 recently.
Oh, 21, not the 22.
No. Was it 22?
The 22's not out yet, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I'll probably play 21 then.
Okay.
Don't know why, just felt like it.
Just felt like it, yeah. I saw it came up on Game Pass.
Yeah.
You know, was it one of those? It's just like, it's on Game Pass.
Just like feel like playing some racing games. That one's might be interesting to try. Has a weird story mode.
Forza 8, hurry up, come on.
It's alright. It was F1, you know.
Right. Their career modes sound interesting.
Yeah, I didn't try the career mode. I tried the story. I went through the story mode. It's kind of like the FIFA story modes. Do you remember those?
Alex Hunter.
Yeah, exactly. That sort of thing.
Would you play that new Grid game with its
I don't know. That looks over the top for me. It reminds me of that Need for Speed game that had.
I mean, all of them.
Well, the one specifically that had the real time actors and. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, that wasn't that long ago, was it? Like, which one was that?
I don't know what one it was. I haven't played it, but it looks silly.
Yeah, the FMV one. Yeah. Was that the Need? Oh no, was that Need for Speed Heat?
Might have been.
Was that when the first one where they were like, this is mostly a night game?
Maybe.
Can't remember.
But that looked silly as well. It looks kind of like that to me.
I think there's been a few of the Need for Speed games that have had real actors in them, but that was the one that tried. There was one recently that tried to blend it all in, rather than have them as like separate cutscenes or something like that. They'd be like, they'd have these FMV dudes in the world or something, in a rendered world. And I think we better call it, host.
Yeah.
Yeah, we better do, because I'm cold and hungry.
Got cold
sitting here in the door where the wind's blowing past.
Oh, I suppose, yeah, you're in. I was about to say, how did you get cold in this hot box? It's like, well, okay,
it's not hot over here. It's fucking cold.
That's probably the worst bit. Oh, and the back door's still open.
Yes, the door's still open. So we're going to end this podcast. I guess I need to do some kind of outro. Go to our YouTube channel and watch our millions of hours of videos.
Plenty of Zelda content.
Yeah, mainly at the moment. The occasional other thing.
And Jet Set Radio.
Yeah, that was one of the other things. And then apart from that, get our podcast wherever you get podcasts from, because you're listening to this podcast where I'm telling you to get a podcast.
Spread the word.
And our website, where you can also find all the things we just said, and our weird Twitter, Facebook, whatever, if you care about those.
Yeah, search for
If you're
Happy
Elon
Salad
Musk, go to Twitter and find our Twitter feed.
at Saladcast.
And that's it. It's the end of this podcast.
It is.
It's pizza time.
Let's get peatsed. So peatsed. Bye.